guys. Happy Sunday. I hope you are having a glorious Sunday. Hopefully, it is as gorgeous out where you are as it is here today. Perhaps I'll take you guys for a brief walkabout in the beautiful sunshine. But before we get into all the goodness that we have for today, if you don't know who I am Tara with Kittens, Weights, and Tarot. You can learn a little bit more about me by going down to that description box down below and checking out the website, kittensweightsandtarot.com, or maybe my little magical handmade goods over at Desert Cauldron on Etsy. And stay tuned because we're still working on the upcoming new website and everything for the channel. I'm super excited. All right, so here we go. Let's dive in. Let me know what you guys have cooked up for today. Anything magical, crazy, awesome, mesmerizing. Insert all the adjectives that happened for you this past week. And those of you that do celebrate St. Valentine's Day, how was your Valentine's Day yesterday? Was it a Galentine's? Was it a self-care day? Did you spend it with your significant other or your four-legged friend or your feathery friend? Or some of you guys have scaly friends. So let me know how you spent the day yesterday. And we will get started in making our tea as we do before we dive fully into our chat. I was feeling something like an eclipse tea because we have a lot going on Tuesday, just in a couple of days. Hey, our girl Lilith is here. What's up? She says, working hard as we speak. Heck yeah. So excited. And Lilith, don't worry, by the end of the day today, I've been thinking of things to email you, so they will come out. But yes, speaking of Tuesday, we have our solar eclipse with our new moon in Aquarius. We also have the Lunar New Year in the year of the fire horse. Yes. Love horses, love fire, my two favorite things. We also have well, in certain traditions, Fat Tuesday or Shrove Day or Pancake Day, as those who are preparing for the Lenten season, getting ready for Lent and ready to abstain from something, one of your favorite things for 40 days until Easter. And I believe there is a host of other holidays, other religious holidays, cultural holidays, and celebrations going on Tuesday and literally this whole upcoming week. So let me know what other holidays there are or celebrations going on this week. I'd love to know. Lilith says, heyo, fellow earthlings. Yes, live long and prospire. Hey, Spice Chip says, good afternoon. Well, good afternoon to you too, my friend. All right, so let's do a little eclipse tea. So what I'm thinking for this eclipse tea, I kind of have already out here, but first of all, I mean, honey, raw honey, because to me, it just represents just the sweetness of life, but also the sun, return of the sun, since we are getting closer and closer to spring. We already passed that kind of midway point between winter and spring. And so as we get ever so more close, so close, I want to incorporate some of that honey, but also on a health level, it's got tons of microbials, like antimicrobials, antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. It's anti-everything except goodness. That it's got full goodness about. So, all right, so we have our raw honey. And I also thought maybe a splash of lemon. I don't have any fresh lemon, but I have some squeezed lemon in here that's still pretty good. So I'm going to do a little splash of lemon. And I was thinking of doing orange, but I don't have any orange. So I was thinking of something else that had either just as much vitamin C or more. Because again, I'm thinking, all of this like sun vibes because it is a solar eclipse. So, if the sun's going to be disappeared, then I would like to put more of that solar energy back into us while it is gone temporarily. So I was thinking of maybe adding some thyme. I guess we could think it as the thyme, T-I-M-E, or T-H-Y-M-E, but thyme has 3 times the vitamin C of oranges. So I thought that would be really good to add in. And not to mention all the vitamin C that was in a lemon as well, also representing the sun. Good times. And then I have a lemon bean that I have kind of chopped up so I can put it in the strainer. There is my fresh lemon bean. And that, again, is just to add a little smoothness to some of the very citrusy and perhaps even tart other flavors that I might have going on in here. And the reason for that is because I'm going to be using pu'er tea. And pu'er tea is an aged tea. This particular tea, what year is this? I believe this is like 19... What did I get? So 1989. So it's been aged for quite a while, but it gives it like a really strong flavor. It's a very strong green tea, almost acting like a black tea. And you don't have to steep it for as long because it's like, woo, knock your socks off. Lola says, had some lemon balm tea earlier. Ooh, that sounds so soothing. Lemon balm, you guys. You can pair lemon balm with other herbs if you wish in a tea, but like Lilith was saying, she just had like a lemon balm tea, like lemon balm on its own. If you're feeling anxious or your mind is racing or you have a lot of things on your plate and you just want to calm down, lemon balm is really good. I think there are a lot of other equally wonderful herbs, but for me, I don't know, there's something about lemon balm. And by the way, that's something that I'm going to be growing in my garden that I'm going to be starting up fairly soon. I'm hoping this upcoming week to go to a place called Tractor Supply and or Lowe's and get some of the materials needed for my raised beds and kind of start the decomposition process with the soil and twigs and compost and all of that stuff, just to get it nice and ready for when all signs of or dangers of frost are gone and I can plant my little seedlings outside. There was a trick I saw to, maybe cutting off the time of like hardening off certain little seedlings instead of starting them indoors, like starting them in milk jugs, but we don't have enough milk jugs right now. So I'm thinking of maybe towards the end, like during this next winter, I'll start saving milk jugs. And then that way I'm going to start my seedlings outside in the milk jugs, which will act like a little greenhouse. And they're already used to like the weather and the bugs and, things like that. So I don't have to spend all that time hardening them off. They're already going to be strong as bulls. So, but this year I will start my seedlings indoors, do the hardening off process, and then place them outside. And so seedlings, I'm going to start some of those in March because I'm getting some that germinate rather quickly. Some of the fruits that are not fruits, the vegetables, fruits are a little bit harder here, although tomatoes are a fruit. So maybe, yeah. Anyway, let's see. Hey, Delicia's here. Hello, hello. All right, so let's go ahead and put this tea together. So I have this pu'er tea, very aged, 1989. Can't say it was the best year. I think 81 was the best year, but I couldn't find a pu'er from 1981. So we're going to have to go with 89. Okay. So I'm just breaking off a little bit. It's a big round cake. It kind of is like a little patty, not like a cow patty, but it's a tea patty. And you just slowly just break off little tiny pieces. So I'm breaking little pieces off of my tea patty. And you don't need a whole lot of pu'er, believe me. It's strong. So, probably wouldn't put as much as like, what do I have here? Like I have some loose white tea here, and maybe I would put like a tablespoon or something, but this is really compact. So what looks like a teaspoon would really flourish into what is actually a tablespoon. And believe me, it is plenty of caffeine. The first time I had pu'er, gosh, it must have been like 20, 25 years ago. And I made some and I steeped it like I do normal tea, like, 5, 10 minutes instead of like 3 minutes. And I just let it go. And then I forgot about it. So it ended up steeping for like 15 minutes. How sometimes you just forget your tea. And I was like, oh, okay. I went to drink it. I was like, oh, this got a little bite to it. And then I drank it all. And afterwards, I was like bouncing off the walls. I was like, what's cool? We should write a book right now. And I feel like I know it's 10 o'clock at night, but I want to go run a 400 meters. Like, let's do it. And also, let's clean the house. Have we painted yet? We should do that. I was just like all over the place. So after I came down from my poo-her high, I was like, okay, duly noted. Steep it very briefly and then sip your tea. um, let's see. Costalini says, I was hearing pooper for the last few minutes. Yep. Who, her. Yes, I'm having pooper tea. That's a totally different YouTube channel. Alicia said, Happy Mahasparati. This is a very powerful festival in India. Har Har Mahadev, may he bless everyone. Wow, definitely tell us a little bit about it. Thank you for sharing that, Delisha. I want to know about this festival. Let me know. All right, so I have put about that much not pooper, tea in my little strainer here. And I'm going to put about a teaspoon's worth of thyme in my strainer as well.
Now I want to watch pooper.
Okay, so I put about a teaspoon in there. Riley's going to go have a Dr. Pooper. Okay, you go here. As you guys can see. All right, I'm also going to toss in my vanilla bean. Boop, boop. And at the bottom, actually, I'm going to move this off to the side. At the bottom, I'm going to pour in some of my honey. Yeah, honey. Sunshine vibes. Getting ready for that upcoming solar eclipse and all that lunar energy coming up and lack thereof, because it will be a new moon. The moon's there. We just can't see it all that well. Sorry, I was like licking honey off my fingers. All right. And a splash of lemon. Beautiful. All right. I have my boiled water already. Ta-da! And I'm going to put just a little bit of water in there first so I can mix up the honey. And then I'll put my little strainer back in. All right, so just doing a little stir ski. I like these little mugs that we got. Riley has one in blue, and it says life is better at the campsite. And we got this at our local country store. We have a couple of grocery stores in town. One of them is like a big chain store, Safeway. But we have Eddie's country store, Eddie's Country Market. And they have some really good stuff in there, and they have little tea mugs. I wish I could buy all their tea mugs, but I would need a whole other room just for tea mugs. Because as you guys can tell, I have an obsession. Okay, now I put my little strainer back in. Now I can pour the rest of my water. A little bit more. Beep. Okay, I put my little lid on. And the reason I put my little lid on my strainer, try to keep in as much of the steam as possible, because within that steam is like a hydrosol. There's essential oils coming off of those little herbies in there, and I try to keep as much of those essential oils inside the tea as possible. Of course, you're not going to keep all of them in, but as many as I can. Okay, so Let me just clean off my little wooden spoon here. And by the way, this little wooden spoon of mine, I'm gonna make it useful. I exclusively just use this for making tea. So, all right. Looks good. Looks good, homies. All right. I'm gonna put some of these things back in the kitchen, and then we'll head out to the living room for some wonderful things that we have planned that you guys voted on, and I'll talk a little bit about that when I come back from the pantry. And the refrigerador. Ooh, I forgot we had fresh strawberries. I could have put that in my tea. Strawberries also have vitamin C as well as antioxidants, but maybe I'll save that for an evening tea. Hello, here I am. I'm back. Okay, so Delisha said, we do rituals and give some offerings to Mahadev. We stay awake till morning, meditate. It's very powerful. There is a cosmic alignment today to help us elevate our energies, all chakras as well. Kundalini energy, if you have heard about it. Yes. Oh, Kundalini energy day. Well, it is indeed a great day for meditation. Although I like a daily meditation, but sometimes there are days that it's just like you really want to go in deep in a meditation. Perhaps today is one of those days. So I dig it. All right. I'm going to take my tea, our delicious little tea. I'm going to take that out into the living room and then I'll come grab you guys. So you guys be good. I'm away. I'm watching. I have eyes on the back of my neck. And our friend Vader is going to be helping us out too. I asked him earlier if he wanted to be video dog. He said yes. So, okay. I am just grabbing you guys on my little laptopy. And hold on. We're going to do some quick adjustments. We're going down. Okay. And then we'll go like this. Yes, Vader, I'm talking about you. You say you want to be video dog today. Okay. We have this. We have this. We have you guys. Alrighty. Here we go. Do. Yeah, come on, Vader. All right, here we go. Field trip out to the living room. All righty. And here we are. And we're back. Okay. There we go. I'm just going to get y'all plugged in over here so I can continue to see all of your lovely comments and stories and sharings. Here we are. Okie dokie. Artichoke. All right. So first, before we get started in what I get super excited for all the things you guys vote for every Sunday. So I wanted to give a shout out to everybody who hangs out with us during these Sundays in the Forest live chat. So thank you so much. I appreciate you guys and everybody who has been helping out or giving encouraging words or ideas for, the channel change. Well, it's not a huge change. We're kind of already doing a lot of what the new channel is all about. But for the website and everything, thank you, thank you, thank you. And also thank you to all of my YouTube members who who they are because they have these cute little colored kitty cat heads like right next to their screen names, like you see with Costalini, Duality Tail, Cinnamon Girl 8611, Jonathan Cleese, Nancy from Macron's Intuition. Thank you guys for all of your love and support. Mwah. And of course, to our mighty moderators, you see like Riley has the wrench of destiny next to his name, but also you see people pop in and out and they have those little blue wrenches of destiny next to their names. Those are my mighty moderators. Thank you guys so much. Mwah. All of my wonderful subscribers, like I said, all of the live chat crew that come in or also watch the replays, but also to my patrons. So thank you to Linda and Sugna Baby and Joel and Oz and Palu, Brandy, Brian, Crystal, Lily, Easy Does It, Dana, Jamie, Ashley, and also to Erin, who is a brand new patron. So thank you guys so very much. Okay, let's see. Delisha said, I feel so good coming here after 2 weeks. I guess I missed the live. Hey, no worries. You're here now. Let's hang out and have some fun. Okay, so on Thursdays, for people who don't know, on Thursdays, I normally put out a poll, like what do you want to talk about or what do you want to see during the Sunday live chat? I put that poll out on my YouTube channel page. I also post some other goodies. I've been trying to do more art lately, and so I've been posting some of my watercolor art there, but any other things that I create, I'm going to try to post it to my channel's page so you can see other things besides like videos and shorts that I make here. But where was it going? Oh yeah. So but anyway, I post a poll there, and I post it to Patreon and I post it to my YouTube members. So if you're a patron or you're a YouTube member or you're both, some of you sassy friends are, then you get extra votes basically. So, instead of just having a singular vote, if you're also a patron, that means you get 2 votes, or you're also a YouTube member, maybe you're part of everything. So then you'd have 3 votes. So, if there's something that you really want to see. But what you guys decided that you wanted to see today was how to examine a sick person. So this part of our live chat is not about going into the treatment, but trying to diagnose, trying to figure out what is going on with that person so that we can, get them the help they need. Maybe it's something that's out of your skill set, and so but you kind of have an idea of what's going on, after examining this person, you're like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure this person has conjunctivitis, so I know what the best treatment would be. Or if you're like, what, I don't know how to treat conjunctivitis, pink eye, so I'm just going to send them off to my homeopathy friend or send them to the doctor or, your acupuncturist, whoever it is that you rely on for your healthcare. And by the way, I will talk about, there's actually a really good remedy for pink eye, and it's pretty easy. And one of my friends that I used to work with at a preschool, she still works there at the preschool, and pink eye is prevalent amongst the preschoolers, especially when it's infant to, I believe they go to 7th grade now, infant to 7th grade. There's a lot of age ranges. A lot of kids are getting into weird things and putting poop in their eyes and whatnot. I don't even know how that happens, but there's a little easy fix, and we'll get into that. But this is all about just trying to figure out like what's going on and then taking as many notes as possible. I'll show you also a bunch of really good books that you guys might want to check out for all of my bibliophiles out there. Maybe you might find some of these at the used bookstore. Maybe you can find them on the Amazons. Maybe you can find them for used on Amazon, which sometimes you can find books there for like 50 cents, $1. Or thriftbooks.com is another really good place. But there's a lot of places online for used and new books. So I will share those book titles with you. Let's see. Delisha said, by the way, do you think that the theory about Epstein alive might be true? Can Tarot tell us something about it? Um, you know, at this point, in all the timelines, everything might be true. But I have a feeling that he is gone, just kind of interacting with his spirit when I did one of those channelings. I believe it was like last year. Um, but, could always tap in, but always tap in with your own intuition as well. But also think about, when big things like these are in the news, if they're putting them in the public eye, what do they not want to show us? Because they don't always show us everything. Remember, the deceiver is everywhere. So everything is impartial truth. So if they're telling us there's all of these things, which might very well be true, but what are all the other things they're not speaking to us about? So, or is it a distraction from something? Not to say that we shouldn't also care about what's going on with the whole Epstein shenanigans, but, and what does this say about the collective consciousness? And what do we do internally, to work on our own healing so that it is reflected into our outside world? There is somebody that I follow on Instagram named at Nick Cannon. And he was actually talking about, all the Epstein stuff. And he was saying, think about like some of the themes with that, that there's about dominance over innocence. There's, things with boundaries, keeping secrets, hiding things away. And although that is to a much more evil degree, we can think about in our own lives if we're not being as open as we would like, try to hold these people who, are of some sort of fame or whatever, to a high standard of, well, you need to be truthful all the time, and we need these files exposed, which, yes, this is true. But think about, in our own world, are we being as open and honest, about ourselves, how we portray ourselves on social media? Hello. Hi, everybody. About how you portray yourself, to your friends, to your family. When we think of innocence, of course, there's the extreme, as we've seen with Epstein, but think about the innocence within us, the intuition, the softness, the child within, the one that wants to just love and enjoy the world. And every time it's dominated by our ego, every time we silence it and we try to control it, just like one of these people trying to control a child. But like I said, it's not exactly the same, but it's a similar theme. So the more we can allow more balance, with our own innocence, the more we can be more authentic, the more we might be able to see that reflected in our outer world. So I thought that was interesting. Definitely a whole discussion, but thank you for bringing that up, Delisha. Hey, Kath is here. Hey, Kath, how are you? Lola says, this person is full of constipated. Yes. Costalini says, remember he invested in human cloning? And we've been hearing a lot about that lately as well. It's like all these things coming out, but also there's so much more beneath the surface. It's like an iceberg, isn't it? Says he could literally be a clone of himself. Real life Palpatine. Yes. They've been talking about, well, like how many Biden clones are there? How many clones are there of these celebrities, and kind of how they got that cloning material? I mean, the rabbit hole goes deep, but something we have to remember too is even in trying to uncover truth in our outside world, it could also be an endless loop to keep us off our path. Even that could be a form of deception too, where we're like, our higher self is like, well, I want to know more, I want to grow, and I want to expand, and then the ego gets in there. And it's like, yeah, we want to grow and we want to expand. We want to keep you in this loop of just trying to dig further and further down the rabbit hole. Yeah, forget anything else on that journey. Just like stay here, get lost in the rabbit hole. So it's definitely like a balance. Gotta work on the balance. Cass says, isn't Keanu Reeves a clone also? I kind of got that in a channeling, and I don't know, just my intuition pings every time I see him, and like, you know, not want to say the news because I don't really watch the news, but like social media stuff, like YouTube clips. And it's like, it just doesn't feel like the same person. And sure, people change, people get older. Um, but there's always like that soul spark, like that signature that has familiarity to it. And I just don't feel it from what I've seen on in videos. So it is indeed a very interesting. Okay. So let's dive in to how to examine a sick person. So, this is really good stuff to know. If you are ever needing to examine your child, you need to examine yourself, your friend. And again, this is just trying to figure out kind of what's going on. What are these signs and symptoms? Symptoms are when you ask somebody, how are you feeling? And they say, oh, I feel kind of gross. I have like this like metallic taste in my mouth. Those are all symptoms, how the person is feeling, what they say they're experiencing. Signs are what you actually can visually see on the body. So, like, you might be able to see that they got these weird bumps on their face that's not acne. Or if it's a newborn child, maybe the soft spot on the top of the head is raised or it's severely depressed. There's a sign that something is wrong. And we have to write down all these signs to go along with the symptoms as well. So we have to look at both. And especially if it's a baby that's not able to speak yet, then we have to go more with what the signs are instead of the symptoms. Although you can gauge some of those symptoms by the way the child is acting, like they're maybe rubbing on their ear a lot or they're pulling on their ear. It might be a sign that there is an ear infection going on. You might notice that they're really feverish as soon as they wake up in the morning, but the fever starts to go away towards the end of the day. But then by nighttime, they're vomiting. It's they're having a really hard time with things, so they might have TB. So we have to really pay close attention to what your friend, family member, child, the patient is exhibiting, the signs, but also what they're saying verbally and non-verbally. And so that's what, is really good to know. And then that way, maybe you are really well learned in the way of caring for people and treating certain simple ailments, or maybe you're a registered nurse and you're really good at a lot of these things. You would write all these things down and be like, okay, so here's what I want to start for treatment to help this person feel better, because I see that by collecting all this data, this is what most likely is the problem. I say most likely because sometimes certain ailments mimic other ailments, and so it ends up being kind of a trial and error. Or you might say, hey, you know what, I've written down everything. I've taken all the notes, but this is out of my pay grade. I don't know how to help this person. So you would take all of that information that you've gotten and you take it to your trusted medical professional. So like I said, that could be a homeopathy person. It could be, your acupuncturist. It could be a Western doctor, Eastern doctor, whoever you trust with your health. You take that information to them. And the more information you can give them, since you've been by that person's side for hours, days, weeks, the more information they have, the better they are able to help your friend, your family member, your child. So, okay, let's go ahead and get into it. First, let's have a sip of our eclipse tea, our little solar eclipse tea. So I'm going to take my little strainer out. And you know what I did? I forgot that I had pu'er in here. And I let it steep that whole time. What time are we at? 34 minutes. Well, it hasn't been 34 minutes since it's been steeping, but probably about 15. So if I bounce off the walls, my apologies in advance. That tastes so good. It's like, I don't want to say, it tastes like sunshine mixed in with like evening, like going into late sunset, like early evening. I don't even know how to describe that taste, but it's like right when the sun goes down, but also feeling like it's a warm summer day. I gotta explain things poetically. I have a hard time explaining it linearly. Let's see. Delisha says, but to survive in today's life, we can't always act like an innocent is what I have learned. But yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's a balance. It's definitely a balance. Everything in the world is about balance. Um, what? Yeah. Let's see. James Dolan says, you are high priestess. We love you. Oh, thank you. I love you guys too. Thank you so much. Okay. So let me bring these books around. Actually, I have some books here too. I got a lot of books to share with you guys. Let me point the camera down so you can see. Yeah, there is like a whole stack of books to share with you. But I'm going to be pulling from this book today. I'll show you this book in just a second. I think it's a very useful book, as are all of these other ones. Okay, so before diving into taking care of our sick family members and friends, more like trying to just figure out the signs and symptoms of what's going on. And then later, maybe in a future live chat, if you guys are like, teach me first aid, CPR, I had to take first aid CPR like every other year for almost 2 decades because I was a track and field coach. So it's like we would have to learn about, child like first aid, adult first aid, child CPR, adult CPR, infant CPR. And then I was like so into all the medical stuff. I didn't really want to be a doctor, but I was very fascinated by the human body. So I went and studied up and got my personal training certificate, and because I wanted to know more and more about the human body. And so, like I said, in future live chats, if you really enjoyed this, what I'm going to talk about today, like how do I figure out like what's going on with my friend, my family member, or myself, like what's going on with myself, and you want to maybe look into some basic treatments that really don't need a medical professional. We can dive into that. We can look at first aid, CPR, if you guys are interested. But like I said, before we dive in, yesterday for the St. Valentine's Day, Riley and I went out to a place called Turkey Springs. And apparently there's a lot of places with the name Turkey. We're all just a bunch of turkeys here. But anyway, it's a really cool place. It was like well, we're surrounded by forest here. And so technically it's south of a place called Heber. And we're going into the trees, and I just kept it was such a different feeling than I have here with our trees. And of course, I feel the energy of the animals, the trees, the plants. I feel the energy of, all the spirits that have been in the area, both human, plant, and, animal. And sometimes I get, other energies that never necessarily had human form, that they're around here. And, it's an even different type of energy up at my property as well. And I've shared a lot of that with you guys. But being in that area, it was like everything was silent. And although it was pretty silent there, I meant like not silent as in sound, but maybe like stillness. And it was very peaceful, like no worry, no anxiety, no fretting. I felt that with the animals that are physically there and the people, but I also felt that with like the spirit energies. I was also feeling all these different, like, I don't know, earth times, there. That was very interesting. And then as we got further in, Riley told me where we were going, but I didn't, like, I've never been there. So I was like, it was going to be a surprise for me. So I get there, and to our little spot. We get out of the Jeep, and we're hanging out, and we're in this place that you can see that there's remnants of people have been there, as well as animal. Um, and you could just feel like all the timelines layered on top of each other. Like I could see volcanoes, I could see water, I could see all the animals that used to be there or are there now. I could, feel all the Native American energy. And then I was tapping into the energy of, Riley kind of was trying to get me to focus on like one time period instead of all the time periods at once. And so we're focusing on like the 70s. And I was feeling that there were some guys out there at some point, like doing work, some sort of work, maybe like with trees. Um, and and I kept hearing like they're laughing and they're messing around. I could hear like the sounds of like machinery. Um, but it was so in and out, like it wasn't a strong energy, not like I was feeling with the natives and not like I was feeling with like the earth itself and the animals. So it was a very light energy that was there. And briefly before we even got there, I was seeing not spirit, but like replay of events that, of like kids on their three wheelers, kind of riding around there, like just two kids just riding around. And that to me felt more like a replay. Like it was just something that got stuck in the energy, but it's not spirits of like children that have passed away. It was like, like a VHS tape of like the past. So I was trying to hone in on them because it felt like they were from around the same time period as when I was like, Riley was having me like tap into. And so anyway, back to these gentlemen, I can hear them messing around, laughing, joking. I hear the machinery, and there's one person, one man in particular, kind of a young man, actually, like I would feel like late teens, early 20s. Um, where it feels like he just kind of disappeared. Like he walked through a portal or something. It was like he was here on this planet and then he was not. But not in the form of like somebody passed away and they're no longer on this planet, that they would be in 4D. That's not what I was feeling. It was like they literally just disappeared from like the face of everything. um, and I thought that was strange, but then Riley was having me like focus in on that. And so I was trying, but for some reason, that was like the hardest thing for me to do. Like usually it's pretty easy for me to like connect to something or try to tap into a particular person or time period or whatever. But it seemed like there was all these blocks coming up, like you're not meant to see, you're not meant to see, kind of like was what was coming up. So it made it really hard to see. And I was trying my best. So I was like trying really hard to tap in. Um, and everything else, it was like I was just, a little sponge. I was soaking everything up. But this one event was very hard for me to look at. Seeing the guys, no problem, but it's where this guy went. It was hard to see because I was looking from his point of view, and it was like in this person's point of view, he couldn't tell if something was really happening to him or if it was a dream or if he had died, because every time he tried to open his eyes, everything was bright white. And actually, from his point of view, it was like, I see him in a truck with some guys. There's music playing. The music is cutting in and out. It's dark. I think they're headed home from work, I think. And the radio is playing, but it cuts in and out because they're like in the hills, they're in the trees. But then there's like this high pitch sound on the radio and all the music stops and it's like like sometimes you get a ringing in your ear, but this was like really loud and it was like kind of jarring. And they stop and you see what looks like a lot of lights in the trees. You think that somebody must be working late, but they shouldn't be here, kind of thing. And then as you're looking at it, you can't really tell what you're looking at other than all I could see was light. There was all these lights. And the person whose eyes I was trying to tap through, the guy that just kind of disappeared, it's like he sees these lights, he's getting out of the truck, but then the next thing is he's in what feels like a hospital. And every time he tries to open his eyes burn and they hurt. And he can tell that there's people or something moving around. You can hear people moving around and tending to you, but you can't really see them because it's so bright, and it's like his eyes really hurt. So it's like every time he was like blinked, it was like he would fall asleep and then he'd wake up, and then it was like, am I dead? When did I die? How did I die? How did I get here? And then it's like, or am I in the hospital? Did I get hurt? You know, it was all these weird thoughts of like, am I dead right now? Am I in the hospital? Am I dreaming? No, I feel weird pain. So I'm pretty sure I'm not dreaming. And then there's like someone testing his reflexes. Like I feel like arm reflexes, knee reflexes, everything. It was like all these reflexes. And somebody kept working on his eyes. And it felt like whoever was there was not trying to hurt him. I think they were trying to heal him. And I think that when he looked at the lights, it burned his eyes. So they were trying to help his eyes, and that's why they burn so much. But it felt like they were trying to help him in a way. And then when I was like really trying to look, because all I could see was fuzziness, like fuzzy white, kind of blurred, like over exposure kind of thing. And then there's like one image of, you think it's like one of the doctors, like all in a white outfit. But it was kind of like, whoa, because he didn't look like a normal human being. He had these massive eyes, and it's like his eyes were all pupil, and he was missing a nose, or his nose was laying flat, like on his face, like his nose didn't stick out. And his skin looked like he was dead. He was like gray, like a very, like, I don't know, like a bluish gray, like skin without oxygen, you know? Um, but he wasn't dead. He wasn't Night of the Living Dead. And it was like, well, if he was an ET, it's not the way normally I would see like presented with ETs. It was like a human, but not. It was very unique. Then that's the last thing I see. And then it's like, when you guys are like falling asleep and you're like, whoa, and it feels like you fall, it feels like that's the next thing. I felt that, like, it was like, whoa, and then all of a sudden, through the guy's eyes that I'm seeing, he's naked, and it's raining and cold. It's dark. I don't know where I am, but it's like I'm by a road, and there's a place with a roof nearby. And the rest is like just scattered memory. Like it's not very linear. So that's kind of where it stopped. But it felt like the beings, or wherever who dropped him off, wanted to make sure that he wasn't back out in the middle of the forest where he was driving home with his buddies. It was like they wanted him to be near other humans so that he could get help, so that he could reintegrate, with everybody else. So yeah, I feel like that person. Sure.
It took you to where supposedly the Travis Walton abduction occurred.
Oh, okay. So Riley said that's the sort of around that area would be where the Travis Walton abduction took place. So that's okay. Well, that makes all kinds of sense now. I was looking into. But yeah, it was such like scattered memory, and it was in pieces. Like it wasn't very linear, and it did feel very dreamlike, and it did feel like, you think you're in a hospital, or you're dead, or you're dreaming. Oh, and there was another part where it's like he opened his eyes and he's like trying to blink, trying to look, and there's a lot of other people, like other humans there on tables or beds, something like that. But he was in like a bedroom, like there's a room with a bed, but it didn't seem like a medical bed, but it didn't seem like a bedroom bed either. I don't know really how to explain it. But it didn't feel malicious. And yeah, it felt like he may still live somewhere in the mountains, but maybe at a time. Oh, okay. All right. Lives in Snowflake. For a time, it felt like he did live maybe back down into the valley, but then maybe came back up here, or maybe has two houses, but felt like up around in the mountains, not like here, but like in the mountains is where he or that person wanted to stay. Um, so yeah. Oh, and there was another thing that was interesting was that, okay, so when he left and when he came back, even though technically it looked like he didn't age, like he's still a young guy when he comes back, his mind is not young anymore. It's like he's I don't know, let forward into like the future, or it's like he's seen so much he can't be the same person as when he left. It's like I was trying to explain it to Riley. It's like, imagine you went 100 years into the future, or 1,000 years, whatever, into the future from now, and you see all these things, you feel all these things, you learn all these things, and then you come back to 2026 and try to be the same person. Like you can't be the same person. So I feel like it's like he feels like he's almost alienated now. Like he's the alien. Like, I how do you connect to everybody who hasn't had that experience? Like, how do you try to relay something that you have no basis for description? Like, you can't say it was like this when there's really nothing to say that it was like, because it's all like weird and different. um so I really felt for this person, like you know where he felt like he didn't connect to friends and family anymore, maybe lost a lot of friends and family, because he was like he's on another level. His brain, his mind, what he's experienced, his soul is like so far away from where he was, in the 70s when I was tapping in. So I thought that was interesting. And Riley kept saying, he goes, well, I'll let you like tap in, and then I'll tell you later why, what this place is actually known for. And I was like, oh, okay. So now he just told me it's Travis Walton where he was abducted. So that is interesting. But like I said, it was so hard to tap in. I've never had that kind of difficulty. It wasn't hard to tap into the person. It wasn't hard to tap into like what happened before, but like to actually be on the wherever, whether he was in a place, he was on a ship, or he was, I don't know where. But um that part, it was like all these blocks are coming up, and it was almost like they were looking at me like, you can't see this, you're not allowed to see this. And I'm like, but I want to. Like, show me. So I tried my best, and that's all I could really describe. And it's bits and pieces of his own point of view. So it was hard to see with my eyes because I was using his eyes. So I don't know. Interesting. I don't know what you guys think. And that kind of segues into how to examine a sick person, because technically the person I was tapping into was getting examined, but perhaps not by people of this plane or beings of this plane of existence. And their goal, it felt like, I didn't feel any malicious intent. It felt like they were genuinely trying to help him. And it felt like it was an accident. Like he wasn't meant to be there. He happened to find himself there. And then it's like, well, now his eyes are hurting because of like our presence here, and whatever else was hurting him on, because of their presence. So it was like, well, we better basically stitch him up and send him back to his people. And so that's what happened. um, let's see. Cass says, how would you know if it's ascension symptoms rather than medical? I think that everything is intertwined. So the physical body is always reacting to the spiritual body, emotional body, our energetic body. Everything is all interconnected. So, like, let's say, well, I was talking about this person's eyes hurting. Let's say my eyes are hurting badly. Of course, there's a 3D explanation for it, but there's also going to be a spiritual explanation as well. And earlier, when Delisha was talking about, we can't be all this or all that. Everything is about balance. So the more we can balance on the inside, the more we find balance in the physical body. The more balance we have in the spiritual body. So very good question. And Delisha said, I have got viral infection for 3 to 4 days, started with a sore throat, cold, and fever inside my body. Now it's just a cold, which is not going away. Ugh. Well, definitely plenty of rest. Plenty of rest. I know it's really late where you are, so you might want to think of getting some rest. For me, that's how I don't, I don't remember when the last time I got sick was, but when I was sick, whenever that was, I remember I would just sleep it off. I would just be laying in bed with my kitty cats, and I would just like wake up just long enough to drink some water and then go back to sleep and then wake up and just drink some water. And depending on how sick I was, I'd do that for like 2 or 3 days of like, you're just staying in bed, only getting up to go use the restroom. And then so that's it, just a little bit of broth and toast and water. um, I was drinking Gatorade too for electrolytes, but now I realize that Gatorade's not that great for you. So it's better to make your own little energy drink, which is just water, salt, and a few tablespoons of sugar. Mix that up, and that's all your body needs to replenish and rehydrate. So yeah. And Alicia says this, that smell, which is constantly inside our nose because of mucus and cold, ugh, go away. I want to smell flowers. Oh, that's the worst part about being ill. I would always keep like peppermint, like essential oil by the bed, and I'd try my hardest to like sniff it when my nose would be all like congested. I'd be peppermint. Or eucalyptus, any strong, fragrance. Hello said residual energy, alien abduction. Yes, yes, and yes. Okay. All right. So, speaking of all these people that were being examined, let's start talking about how we can examine ourselves or others. So, let me just show you this book here real quick that I'm actually going to get my notes from. I think this is a really helpful book. It's called Where There Is No Doctor, a Village Health Care Handbook by David Werner and Carol Thuman and Jane Maxwell. So this book was created for very, very rural places in the world where certain people might have a hard time getting access to a doctor or somebody who is knowledgeable in medicine. Let's say I live in the middle of the Sudan somewhere, and it's like a couple hundred miles before I can get to the nearest town. Let's say I'm super remote. That's what this kind of book is for. It's for people that basically, here's a little how to take care of yourselves, how to figure out what's going on, what's wrong. And since I was, living up at my property about an hour from town, let's say something severe was happening, I wanted to know how to be able to take care of myself and treat myself, basically become sovereign, instead of every time I'm like, owie, I hurt my finger, I'm going to have to go see the doctor. And instead of running to somebody else every time, I feel like a little something, it's like, okay, well, let's see how I can help myself first. And then if it's out of my well of knowledge, then I'm going to go ask for help. But I feel like this was a really helpful book. There's another book just like this called Where There Is No Dentist. So if you're in a place where it's just not possible for you to go see a dentist right away, or it might be like a day's trip to go see a dentist, or it's a couple hundred miles away, that's also a really good book. It's like everything dental, and it's done really simply. And it tells you what items you could use that are readily available, so you don't have to have like all of these dental supplies. And just like this book, it shows you how to use things that you already have to help yourself and others, instead of having to basically have a whole medical office at your disposal. It's really taking us back to the way our ancestors had to take care of themselves. So I think this is a fantastic book. There's a lot of pictures. It's very simplified. There's a lot of step-by-step. And, so if you guys are interested, this is what it looks like where there is no doctor. Okay. So let me open up 2 pages I want to talk about while having some more tea. And some other books to check out. Some of these are Riley's books. Very helpful. Mountaineering Medicine, a Wilderness Medical Guide by Fred Darville, Jr., MD. If you are interested in taking care of yourself, first aid, what to do when you're out in the boonies, and I can't readily get to somebody who knows how to treat these things. Figure out how to treat yourself first. Being Your Own Wilderness Doctor by Dr. E. Russell Coday and Bradford Angier. Okay. Like I said, this could be for like your bibliophile library. Mountaineering First Aid, a guide to accident response and first aid. And down at the bottom, this is by the Mountaineers. And if you guys want to screenshot any of these books, you can do so. Medicine for Mountaineering, edited by James A. Wilkerson, MD. Also by the Mountaineers, second edition. Okay, we have the third edition, Medicine for Mountaineering, again by the Mountaineers. So a few editions for you guys to take a look at. American Red Cross, Life Saving and Water Safety. If you ever find yourself out in a fast-moving river, on the lake, streams, whitewater kayaking, and the lake, being out and about. All right, we also have International Mountain Rescue Handbook by Hamish McKines. And lastly, by the American Red Cross, Advanced First Aid and Emergency Care. And it's probably very similar to what I had to take every other year to keep my coaching title official, so I can continue to work on children, because you never know what these kiddos do. Sometimes you don't know if they ate that day. You don't know if they're sick and they're just hiding their symptoms because they want to be at practice and they want to be with their friends. I've seen all kinds of things. I've seen bones sticking out. It was a shin sticking out from the skin. I've seen teeth get knocked out. I've seen a pencil get stuck into an eyeball. I've seen a dislocated shoulder. I've seen a torn quad. That was on myself. I've seen torn hamstrings. I've seen all different types of like contusions and all sorts of things. Children vomiting, explosive diarrhea, mostly with the preschoolers, like sick diarrhea. I've seen really bad seizures in students. So I don't know. I've been around a lot, and I wanted to know how best to help them beyond the first aid and like extreme advanced first aid we were learning, and CPR. So that's why I had, wanted to learn more through becoming a personal trainer, and not because I wanted to be somebody's personal trainer, but because I wanted to know more medicine. I wanted to know more about the body. And then later on, I wanted to know about the spiritual reasons about the body. And now it's like I've meshed the two together. Okay, so here we go. How to examine a sick person. And I will take a picture of, there's like a form. You don't have to use this form, but it's just like easy to like fill in all the information that you're gathering when examining this person, so that you have all the information in one place. If I either like wanted to look at it and be like, okay, now I know how to help this person, or wow, I don't know how to help this person, I'm going to take this to somebody who does, so I will take a picture of it and I will post it to my YouTube's channel page, kind of, where the community posts are. But it looks like this, and it's called a patient report, and has all kinds of things. So it's the name of the person, are they male or female? What is the main sickness problem right now? They might have a lot of things going on, but what is the main thing going on? How old are they? When did it begin? How did it begin? Did this person have this problem before? When? Is there a fever? How long the fever's been? How high it's been? Even if a person doesn't feel feverish, you still want to check their temperature every 4 hours when you're really monitoring somebody, because things could change. Things could change within a few hours. If you check them, let's say yesterday, and says, well, they were sick, but they didn't have a fever yesterday. Okay, but now's today. Time to check again, because fever usually means infection. So we want to stay on top of that. what did you notice about their skin? Is it clammy? Is it cold? Is it hot to the touch? Does it hurt them when you touch them? Anything you can tell me about the skin, what's going on with their ears, their eyes, their mouth, their throat, their genitalia, especially in babies and infants. When you're checking their skin, you definitely want to check in their genitalia, between their fingers and their toes, between their buttocks, because oftentimes they get a lot of diseases just based on having to wear a diaper all the time. They keep a lot of their fecal matter close to their body, and it's a warm, moist place for infections and things to thrive. So you want to look in those areas, especially if they're always sucking on their fingers and everything is staying wet, between their fingers and toes. Things can grow there. So you want to take a look. What does the urine look like? What does it smell like? We need to know all these things. What does the stool look like? What does it smell like? Did you notice anything in the stool? How is their breathing? Is it deep? Is it shallow? Is it normal? Are they having difficulty breathing when you put your head to their chest, or maybe you had a stethoscope? Did it sound like gurgles in there? Did it sound strained? Do you see them? Well, I have a high neck shirt on right now, but if they're like this, or you see like the breathing right behind the collarbone here, that might be a form of asthma. They might have something stuck in their throat that's preventing them from breathing. There's all these things. So we want to have a look-ski. Does the person have any signs of dangerous illness? And there's actually a whole list of dangerous illnesses. Okay, this requires immediate attention right now. This isn't just like our friend Alicia, who probably is feeling miserable right now, but she has a cold. That's treatable. But if somebody has advanced glaucoma right now, okay, well, that could cause blindness within a few days. They need some immediate attention. Other signs is the person taking medication? What kind of medication are they taking? Have they ever gotten a rash or had an allergic reaction to for a type of medication? What are they allergic to? So it's a whole list of things. But let's go back and get simplified where to begin. But like I said, I'll take a picture of that form if you guys are interested, and I'll post it to the YouTube channel page either tonight or tomorrow. Okay, so you got your sick friend. Well, maybe we'll use Vader. What do you think? Okay, let's go over and use Vader. Vader's going to be our sick friend. He's not actually sick. He's a very healthy boy, but he's going to be our little patient for right now. I'm coming to you, sir. Is that okay? It's okay. You can lay down. I've come to sit with you. Yes. Hi. Okay. Yeah, I know. Okay. All right. Okay, you can lay back down if you'd like. All right, so first we have our patient. He's laying down. Let's say he's not feeling so good. All right. So if he were an adult or a child that could speak and he wasn't a baby, we'd start asking him some questions. What bothers you the most right now? Right now, he's probably bothered that we're not out going for a hike. But I'm, in all seriousness, you would ask him, okay, what hurts the most? Let's say this hurts right now and this hurts right now, but really his head hurts the most. He's got a really bad headache. So, you'd write that down. Write that down in your notes. Ask him, what makes you feel better and what makes you feel worse? And write down all of his answers. So does he feel better when he's sleeping and not moving, just kind of resting? Does he start to feel worse every time he sits up? Maybe every time he uses the bathroom, it feels worse. So you want to write down all these things. These are all the person's symptoms. Later on, we're going to be looking for what you see, the signs. What do you see going on with his eyes? What do you see going on with his ears? And it's actually pretty cool, using Vader because, he doesn't although you can infer what he's saying, um, he doesn't use words like a human adult would, so he would be more like a baby. He can't say, owie, my ear hurts right now. So you'd have to look at all the signs instead. Right now, obviously, it looks like he's feeling pretty good. um, so you might ask him then, how did your sickness begin? And he may not actually know, but it's good to ask anyway. So how did your sickness begin? It could be, they could be guessing, being like, I think it started last Thursday, but I'm not really sure. Or I think I felt a little dizzy after my friend's party, but I assume that's because I stayed up really late. Take in all of that information and make sure that you write it down. Have you had the same trouble before? Or has anyone else in your family or your neighborhood had this? Where, let's say, Vader's elbow is hurting, his stomach is hurting, but he told me that his head is the part of him that hurts the worst. And so you want to ask him, has anybody else in your family had this trouble where their arm hurts and their tummy hurts, but their head hurts the worst? And he might say, well, actually, my dad last year, yeah, had something like that. Or, there's this girl down the street, another white dog named Lily, and yeah, she was suffering from this last week. Aha, that must mean that it might be contagious. So we want to write all that stuff down. Okay, so you want to continue asking more questions. Just again, like, where are you feeling pain? Like, where does it hurt? Could you point to me where it hurts? On a baby, obviously, the baby isn't going to like point to where it hurts. They're going to wince, or they're going to favor a particular side. They're going to maybe rub on their ear or in their eye. So they're going to show you with their actions where it hurts. Instead of being able to point it out to you. You could ask them, does it hurt all the time? Is the pain that you're feeling sharp? Is it dull? Is it burning? Because the sensation also could give us clues as to what is going on. Can you sleep with the pain? Maybe with certain illnesses, they actually get worse at night, and it's really hard for a person to sleep. They might feel pretty good throughout the day, but then by the time nighttime comes, they feel like crap. So that's also something to take into consideration, because some illnesses, that's how they work. Okay, so moving right along. Okay, so things to take a look at for, their general health. Take a look at the color of their skin and their eyes. Let's say somebody has a lot of melanin in their skin, and it's really hard to see discoloration. You would normally see it on the bottoms of feet and in the palms. Like sometimes when I used to go to a doctor, the doctor would often look at my palms, because a lot of things, because on my palms you can see I'm really pink on my palms, and I'm a little tan on the backside. But on my palms, that's usually where things would really show up well. So I would show them my palms. So, if somebody is really dark skinned, just look at the palms of their hands, the bottom of their feet, to look for discoloration. So you could look for paleness, especially inside the lips and the eyelids. So let's see. We're looking at Vader here. Vader, do you mind if I look at your mouth right here? So I might look at his lips. Oh, no. He's kind of dark colored inside of his lips. Basically, you're going like this. You're looking to see if it's bright pink or if it's pale. Also, your gums. Do the gums look pink and red, full of blood? Or do they look really pale, which could be a sign of anemia? Doesn't always mean it's anemia, but it could be a sign of, so you're looking at this, you're also looking in the eyelids, and you're lifting up the eyelids. Like, is it pink underneath the eyelid, or is it really pale? So all of that is going to tell you something. Skin may also go lighter as a result of tuberculosis, or there was something, hold on, let me pull up the right wordage for it. I don't want to give you guys the wrong wordage. Okay, it's called wet malnutrition. So wet malnutrition, as this can happen when a child does not eat enough bodybuilding helper foods or proteins. So if they're in a very they could be in a part of the world where they just can't get a whole lot of food, a lot of nutritious food, especially protein, or the proteins they are getting, like beans and lentils and meats, are kept in a damp place, and certain bacteria has formed on those foods. Then it starts to create what's called a wet malnutrition. So you might notice that they're getting like a moon face. Their face is getting like really round, not like a round baby face, but like a swollen round baby face. So they call it moon face. You might notice that over a period of time, because this is not like you notice it in one day that there's something wrong with this kid. This is over like days, weeks, months. You notice that kids grow pretty fast when they're babies, and they grow into toddlers, and then they grow and beyond. They grow really quickly. But if you notice they're growing really slowly, or their growth has stopped, something is wrong. And they have moon face, and you might notice that they have little sores on their skin, or their skin peels really easily. That's not good. So you want to write that down. Their hands might be swollen, their little toes might be swollen. You might notice that their once really dark hair looks like it's getting lighter for some reason, or their very beautiful light blonde hair is starting to look dull and lifeless. The baby feels miserable all the time. Their upper arms, are getting really skinny. Babies should be pudgy. There's a little bit of baby pudge, not that they're eating unhealthy, but that's just kind of like how a healthy baby is. They're just little pudgies. But you notice like the baby's losing weight. They shouldn't be losing weight. They put on pudge till about 2-3 years of age. And then as they continue their growth spurts, they start to thin out a little bit. So if you notice that your 6-month-old is starting to rapidly lose weight, that's a bad sign. You might also notice that their muscles are wasted. They're wasting away. So they might still have a little bit of fat on their body, but their muscles are weakening. So maybe they can't crawl like they used to, or if they used to walk around, but now they're just laying there and they're kind of limp, because they don't have the muscle to move. Something is severely wrong. So it could be a sign of wet malnutrition. Again, just not getting all the proteins and all the growth building foods that they need to be a strong, healthy, growing child. Okay, so let's go back. Okay. You might also notice, and now we have our very sleepy Vader. A darkening of the skin might be a sign of starvation. So it's not just malnutrition, but they're really not getting the foods that they need to have healthy functioning. If they're a woman, the menstrual cycle, maybe that has stopped for them. Maybe you start to notice more bone showing rather than muscle. Their eyes start to look a little sunken in, a little darkening around the eyes, a little darkening around different parts of the body. That could be a sign of starvation. And sometimes people can be taking in what seems like an adequate amount of food, but still be starving because what's in that food is not helping them. There's absolutely no nutritional value in that food. And so, that could happen as well. So this is not to say that, you need to be in a place where there's no food. Sometimes you can have food, but your body's literally wasting away. You're still starving. Okay. If you've noticed bluish skin, especially like a bluish or darkness around their fingernails, like fingernails are a little bluish, or around the cuticle, it's bluish or a blue-gray. Or maybe there's a darkness or bluishness on the lips. It just looks a little blue. Maybe the rest of their skin looks okay, but the lips look a little blue, almost like they're having a lack of oxygen. It could be a serious problem with breathing. So it could be a number of things, really, but write that down because, the body doesn't lie. The body's telling you something is wrong. And of course, I know from a spiritual standpoint, obviously there's a severe imbalance going on spiritually, but we want to look at what the physical symptoms are so that we could treat those at the same time we try to correct anything energetically. Also, if you're noticing, blue fingernails, blue gray in your lips, it could also be a sign with the heart condition, about a heart condition. The heart might not be beating as it should, and so the blood isn't circulating as it should, and thus, you're seeing this kind of bluish color on this person. If you're seeing a blue-gray color on an unconscious child, like they're asleep or maybe they passed out, like not in a good way, it might be a sign of severe malaria. But that's something to take into consideration, especially if you live in an area where that is a problem. Okay, other things to look for in the skin. It's hard to see Vader's skin because he's so furry. It's like he has this never-ending fur. He's actually kind of pink. He's kind of pink under his fur. I was just looking. I was like, oh, you're a pinky dog. Okay. So if you see a gray-white coloring, but also the skin is cool and moist, it's almost like clammy, cold, moist skin, that often means the person is in shock. Now, shock could happen when somebody is severely sick, severely dehydrated, something crazy just happened, they were just in a crazy car accident, and they can't really relate to you what's happening, and sometimes they faint, there's all these other symptoms. But if you notice that, that cool, clammy skin, and it's a grayish white, that might be a sign of shock. If you notice that the skin is a yellow color, and you notice it on the skin, you notice it in the eyes, that could be a sign of jaundice. Sometimes babies get it. For some reason, newborns, they're having trouble still, processing things through their liver. So that might be a thing. But it could also be a form of liver disease in an adult. And I have seen somebody who their liver was severely backed up. It was due to cancer, but what you saw on the outside, it looked like it was just a liver problem until you did a deeper dive, and then you realize this person had cancer all over the body. But they did turn a Homer Simpson yellow. Like, I'm not kidding. You really do turn yellow. I've also seen it in babies. When I worked at the preschool, we had an infant room. It wasn't just preschool age. It was infant to 7th grade. So it was a wide range. It was a Montessori school that I was at. But there were kids that had jaundice, like babies that had jaundice, and they were bright yellow, like Crayola crown yellow. So, something to take into consideration. Instead of you're like, is this person a little yellow? I'm not sure. It would be pretty clear. It could also be hepatitis. It could be cirrhosis, like cirrhosis of the liver. It could be an amoebic abscess. It's just, write all this stuff down. And then later we could pinpoint, exactly what it is. Other things that could turn a skin color yellow is issues with the gallbladder. If the gallbladder isn't working as it should, which you might also notice some swelling and pain associated with that as well. But, when you want to write all this stuff down. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Children that are born with sickle cell disease, like sickle cell anemia, you might notice that they also have a predisposition towards kind of that jaundice look. But here's an interesting thing. Those that are born with sickle cell anemia are immune to malaria. And so they say that that is an evolutionary thing that has occurred in places where malaria is prevalent. They noticed that more and more people started getting born with sickle cell because it was a natural defense. Mother Nature was basically putting it into individuals so that they could stave off malaria. So just a little FYI, that's a little something. Okay. Next, you want to check for temperature. So like I said, if you have a thermometer, great, especially a digital thermometer. I had one of those old school mercury thermometers. I actually broke it and the mercury did come out. So, okay, don't touch mercury, y'all. So maybe a digital thermometer, but I don't know. I still like the mercury kind anyway, but to each their own. But let's say you don't, oh, thank you. Let's say you don't have a thermometer on hand. Put your, here we'll go like this so you guys can see. Put the back of your hand over your forehead. You see how it feels? And then over your patient, you're going to put it on his forehead. Right now, he's like, what the heck are you doing? But try different other people's foreheads that aren't sick, so you can get kind of a gauge of what a healthy temperature should feel like. So it's like, okay, my head feels a little warm, but I don't feel sick. And, if let's say I put this on the back of my hand on Riley's head, and it's like, well, he feels a little warm too, but he's not sick. And then I, test his sister, and well, her forehead's a little warm, but she's not sick. Okay, so that must mean that's what stasis is. That's what homeostasis is. That's the baseline. Everybody should feel a little warm, but not burning. Okay, but let's say I put now my hand on Vader's head and his feels like it's fire. It doesn't feel like Riley's sister. It doesn't feel like Riley. It doesn't feel like my forehead. Okay, that means that Vader probably has a temperature. But of course, to know exactly what that temperature is, you probably want a thermometer. So you want to take his temperature every 4 hours. If this is a baby, and it's really hard for them to keep it under their tongue, because that's where you want to keep it until, like if it's a digital thermometer, it'll beep when it's time to take it out. Otherwise, just keep it in for a few minutes. If you have like a mercury thermometer, just have them keep it under the tongue. But if it's a child that's going to bite on it and everything like that, okay, then putting it in the mouth is not an option. Obviously you can't tell a 2-month-old baby, here, hold this in your mouth underneath your tongue. The baby's not going to do it. So, so that's when there are other ways of taking temperature. You could either stick it under the armpit and hold it there for a few minutes, or grease it up, clean it up, and stick it in their anus for a few minutes. I would I would suggest that if you're going to use a thermometer as a rectal thermometer, perhaps keep it the family rectal thermometer. What?
I forgot the thermometer part.
Oh my God. So, yeah, don't put it in the baby's bum and then go ahead and put it in your mouth afterwards and check your temperature, just to, for no cross contamination. Even though you obviously want to clean it with alcohol, hot water, whatever, still, for me, it's like once a rectal thermometer, always a rectal thermometer. It's not going oral ever again. All right. Okay. Other things to know. So, all right. You've asked your patient some questions. You've checked their eyes. You've checked their skin. You've checked the temperature of their skin, the color of their skin, whether their skin feels hot, dry, clammy. So now it's time to take a look at their breathing. So these are other signs. So hold on, let me move around here. Okay. Back to the Vadarsky. Focus on, well, since this is a dog, you're going to focus on his breathing back here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Can you see his breath in and out, his fur moving in and out here? Okay, so you can see that he's in a pretty calm, relaxed state. It seems, well, for a dog, dogs breathe a little faster than human beings. But it's slow, rhythmic. It's neither too deep nor too shallow. He's probably pretty good right now. But we want to take a look at that with the people that we're diagnosing or at least examining. So get yourself a watch or a timer, because we're going to want to count the number of breaths in a minute so that we can determine whether their breathing is fast or too slow, for their age group, because adults and older children will roughly be kind of within the same breath range, but the younger a child gets, the faster they breathe. So we have to take that into consideration. Okay, so between 12 and 20 breaths per minute, like at a resting pace, is normal for an adult or older children. So this is not directly after they finish playing outside or they just ran around the house. So this is when a person is at rest. So you want to get, your watch, or you want to get a little timer, and you just want to time that. There's up to 30 breaths a minute, which would be normal for younger children. And this is just average. Of course, there's going to be outliers. Some people just breathe faster than other people, which is why we have to take a look at the overall picture. What else is going on? We can't just say, oh, this person's breathing fast, they're sick. We have to look at other things. Okay, 40 breaths a minute typically is normal for babies. So I'm talking toddler and younger. Okay. For people with a high fever or serious respiratory illness, the breath might be quicker than normal. So you might notice that somebody has 30 shallow breaths a minute in an adult, which usually means they might have pneumonia. Or they might have 60 breaths a minute for a newborn baby. That baby's breathing really rapidly. So there's what's going on? What's the body fighting right now? It could be a major infection. It could be an infection in the lungs, but we want to write all that stuff down. Okay, now listen very carefully. So Vader can listen better than I can. He's got doggo ears, but you would listen. I'm kind of trying to put my head close to him. I'm like, can I hear his breath? If I can't hear it from his nose, I'm going to have to put my head near his lungs. You stay there, Vader. I'm going to listen to you. Okay. Doesn't sound like any wheezing or obstruction going on. So you could use a stethoscope if you have one. But if you don't, of course, just putting your head right here and listening is the best thing. Obviously, it's like this for a doggo, but for a human, you want to put it not over their heart, because the heart might drown out the sound of the lungs. So you want to be more near their rib cage. Just listening. So I can hear a little bit of his heartbeat, but for the most part, I'm just listening for the breaths. So if you hear a little whistle or a wheeze, like he's having difficulty breathing, it could be a sign of asthma. But like I said, we got to look at the bigger picture. If I were to put my head on his chest and I hear like a gurgling, like inside of his lungs, or even his nose, like right now, Delisha might have like a really congested nose. I think she was talking about having a hard time smelling things right now. So probably every time she breathes, you hear like a little wheezing or a little, but we know that she has a cold. So that is the reason for that sound. But we still want to write down these sounds nonetheless. I know that when my cat Presley was very sick, he was actually in renal failure. And so sometimes his lungs would fill up with fluid. And so I would hear a gurgling in the lungs. You could hear it a little bit if you were standing like maybe a foot away, but the closer you put your ear to the chest, it became very, very prominent. Okay. Let's say the person is unconscious. They're asleep, or they've passed out. They've fainted. And you still hear this like gurgling noise. It might mean that the tongue or the mucus has some slime or pus on it, or there's something caught in the throat, and it's, they're having a hard time getting air through. So maybe the lungs sound okay, but like, you get closer kind of up here in the neck area, it's like he's having a hard time breathing, but it doesn't seem like anything else. He might have actually choked on something, and so it's stuck in the throat. Maybe there's some mucus there stuck in the throat. If you notice the sucking in of the ribs, so let's say Vader was breathing really hard and his rib cage was starting to show, and it's like you could see his chest like really pushing in underneath his lung or his ribs. and maybe it's at an angle, and perhaps like I was showing you, like here with the collarbone, like really seeing like the indentation behind the collarbone as the person's trying to breathe, it means they're having a hard time getting air in. They're really sucking in underneath the rib cage there. And it could be something stuck in the throat, could be asthma, could be bronchitis, could be pneumonia. Of course, we want to look at all the other factors. If the person also has a cough, and it keeps that person from sleeping, find out if the cough has mucus in it, how much mucus is in it, what color is the mucus, and is there blood in it? Okay, all of these things we want to know. All right, pulse. Obviously, finding the pulse on a dog is going to be different than finding, well, different-ish than finding the pulse on a human. So on a human, you're going to take your 2 fingers. You don't want to put your thumb on the wrist. This is a pulse point, but there's almost like a little heartbeat that's felt in your own thumb. So you might mistake your own heartbeat for that person's heartbeat. So that's why you want to take your 2 fingers here and go right here. So go about 1 finger's width underneath. So it's like where it's real soft, right underneath the wrist bone, and right next to these 2 tendons. There's like 2 major tendons that are right here. I mean, there's more tendons, but those are the 2 that show. So you want to put your 2 fingers there, and for about a minute or 30 seconds, if you want to count the beats for 30 seconds and then multiply it by 2, that'll give you the beats per minute. Or you just sit here for a minute. If you're having a hard time finding the pulse in the person, you're like, oh my God, they're dead. Okay, they're not dead. Some people, it's just really hard to feel their pulse here. So in that case, I'm going to put my 2 fingers. Hold on. There we go. No, you lay there. You're fine. You're fine. I'm going to put my 2 fingers on Vader's neck, right on his carotid artery. So that little heartbeat that you feel just along your jawline in the soft part of your neck, right below your ear. I'll show you on myself. Right here. Okay, put your 2 fingers there. Usually you can get a better, at least for me, on my body, I can feel my heartbeat better here. And sometimes you see when people are out working out or running, they're like counting their beats per minute. Sometimes it's just harder to find it on the wrist, but if you found it on the wrist, fantastic. So anyway, okay. For normal, like a person isn't sick, the beats per minute for an adult is 60 to 80 beats per minute. But like I said, that's just a roundabout range. For some people, their heart just beats really slow. Like I knew a person whose heart just beat like 45 to 50 beats per minute at rest. Like the dude was a freaking Zen master. So his heart beat really slow. Other people, like for me, my heart beats really fast, even when I'm resting. So, I mean, to me, fast is like 60 to 70 beats a minute. Technically, I'm still within the normal range, but I don't know, it's kind of fast to me. Children, their heartbeat is between 80 to 100 beats a minute. And for babies, it's 100 to 140. So if you couldn't already tell, babies breathe faster, their heart beats faster. There's a lot of growing going on. So those little guys are, the bodies are trying to keep up. Okay. Remember, if a person just finished exercising, or they're really nervous, or they're frightened, or maybe they're dehydrated, or they have a fever, that is going to change the rate of their pulse. So all things to take into consideration. As a general rule, the pulse increases by about 20 beats per minute for every degree Celsius it rises in a fever. So just something to think about. Other things that might change the pulse. If the pulse is, you're feeling it and it feels really fast, but I can barely feel it. It feels really weak. It's like weak and fast. That might be a sign that a person is in shock right now. It doesn't always mean that, but it's just something to take in consideration. If it's very rapid and then very slow, or it's irregular, it's all over the place, the person might have a heart issue. I myself have premature ventricular contractions and tachycardia, not all the time, but sometimes. Actually, last night at I don't know what o'clock in the morning, my tachycardia was acting up. So I put my hand like this, my two fingers right where my artery is, and I was trying to feel it. And you can feel that it's irregular when your heart's not beating as it should, because the blood will pump irregularly. So for me, it feels like this beat, 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 which it shouldn't be right when I'm sleeping. It was about, I was estimating about 120 beats a minute, because it was about 2 beats per second. So about 120 beats. And that's above normal. So for me, I wasn't sick or anything. I know exactly what I have, so I know what was going on. And I, yes, then Riley cured it. He put his hand on my heart and had me breathe with him, and he was sending me his good juju, and we just like chillaxed. Then I felt Jesus in the room, and the Jesus put his hand on my heart, and we all just like zenned out together, and then I fell asleep and the tachycardia went away. It was great. So going back to, like, let's say tachycardia or PVCs, premature ventricular contractions. It means what a premature ventricular contraction is. Some of you guys might have it. So let's say this is the valve, one of the valves of your heart. And, it squishes and then blood goes through, squishes, then blood goes through. Well, premature means it's blood's about to go through, it goes squish. And so the blood hits it and like backs up, and then it opens. And so it's like you miss a beat. And so you might feel a little faint. You might be, feeling this person's pulse, and it's like beat, 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 beat. It's like there's a skip in there. Okay. All right. So that's I'm so glad that we are riveting entertainment for Vader. You can see that he is just so entertained right now. Are you not entertained? Okay. Taking a look at eyeballs. Hold on. I wonder if I can get down low and you can look into Vader's beautiful little doggo eyes. Hold on. I'm going to get you guys real low here. Pardon the noise. Okay. Oh, hey, Vader. Look into the camera. Show them your doggo eyes. Okay. Doggo eyes. Okay. Look into the sick person's eyes, or we don't know what's going on with them, but you want to look at their eyes. If you've ever had your parents say, look me in the eye, sometimes it was to see if you were lying, but also your parent might look you in the eye because they wanted to see if you were sick. At least my mom used to do that. She used to look me in the eye to see if I was ill. She would say my eyes look glassy. Sometimes they look glassy when you're not starting to feel very good. You want to look at the white part of the eye. So right there, that is the white part of your eye. Is it reddish, like it's irritated? Is it yellow? Is the person's vision, like, do they have blurry vision? Do they got double vision going on? Does it burn? Ask them all these questions, write all this information down. Have the person slowly move their eyes up and down and side to side. If you notice that the eyes are a little jerky while this is happening, or it's uneven movement, there might be a sign of some brain damage going on. So maybe the person just suffered a head injury. So that would, be the most likely reason why the eyes are doing that. Maybe they're concussed, so it definitely something to take a look at, and something that when I was teaching at the high school, man, the kids were hitting their heads on all sorts of things, falling off of things. I mean, they were just walking concussion baskets. So you constantly got to look in their eyes, have them look left, look right, look up, look down. And sometimes their eyes wouldn't be smooth when they do that. And you notice that there's something going on there. They really hit their head pretty hard. Pay attention to the size and color of the pupils. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back to me so that you guys can see my eyeballs. Maybe a little hard to see because I have very brown eyes, but still, you can see the whites of my eyes. Okay, So I'm gonna get really close to the camera. You guys get close and personal to my eyeballs. Okay. So I would look up, look down, look side to side. You notice that if my eyes were like, well, I can't even do it because I don't have, I don't know. Some people might say I have brain damage, but anyway, no. If my eyes are like, or, I'm having trouble looking up, okay, there might be a little issue there. But also the pupils, that's the very center of your eye. It's not the colored part. That is your iris. It's the little black dot in the center there. Sometimes if they're really large and that the person's really sick or they just went through some traumatic accident event, it might be shock. There's other reasons why the pupil might be rather enlarged, of course. It could be that they've been poisoned, a child got into the cleaning products or something like that, and they've been poisoned. Their pupil might be really large, meaning that it's not dilating or whatever based on changes in light, which is why sometimes the doctor will place a little like light in front of your eye and like do this and tell you close your eyes, now open your eyes, and they get closer because they're trying to see if your pupil is changing, if it's reacting to light, and near far as it should. Also, the person could be on drugs. They might be on mushrooms, they might be on acid, they might be on who knows what, and it's affecting the pupils of their eyes. If it's really, really large, the pupil is like taking up almost the whole iris, or it's really, really small where it's mostly just the color of their eye and you can barely see any pupil. It's like a little pin dot. That could also mean drugs or poison. So something to take a look at. They might have like a glow across their eyes. You might even see that on animals sometimes. It almost looks like a fogginess over the eyes. And that is cataracts. So just something to look at. Also look at both eyes. Sometimes when a person's concussed, one eye will be like the pupil is really tiny and the other pupil is like really big and they're not like responding as they should. Now, Riley actually, normally, he does have one pupil that's larger than the other and he's not concussed. So it's just how his eyes are. So, okay, at one time he was concussed. I think at one time we were all concussed. But anyway, so you want to take in the whole picture. If somebody were to look at Riley right now and they look into his eyes and be like, oh, you have a concussion. They start treating him for a concussion. He doesn't have a concussion right now. That's just the way his eyes are. So you might want to take a look at that. Let's see, other things to look at. Oh, looking in the eyes in case of, these things might be signs of medical emergency. Like, okay, this person needs treatment, not tomorrow, like right now. You need to take them somewhere right now. Or if you have the expertise and you can deal with it right now, like, okay, you're on it. If a person, let's say that one pupil is normal, the other pupil is massive, but there's a lot of pain that's associated with that eye. Let's say it's this eye and I'm throwing up a lot. The person might have acute glaucoma. In about 3 to 4 days, let's say if it just started right now, in about 3 to 4 days, that person could go blind, like permanently. So you're going to need to seek some medical attention pretty quickly. But again, this is taking in everything else that's going on with the person. So just keep that in mind. But this is definitely a red flag. Okay. If the eye with the smaller pupil hurts a great deal, so like again, one eye is normal, but now this eye, it's got a really, really tiny pupil and it really, really hurts. They might have like conjunctivitis, like pink eye. And actually, okay, so earlier I was talking about my friend who works at the preschool and she found out something that like just cleared up everybody's pink eye within like a couple of days. She had pink eye. Well, she got pink eye from 2 other kids at the preschool that had pink eye. Then she gave pink eye to both of her daughters. Her husband didn't get it, but so almost the whole family had pink eye. Well, we both have now hypochlorous acid, not hypochloric acid. That's No, hypochlorous acid. That's something that our body naturally produces, like white blood cells, in order to help speed up cell renewal and turnover. And so she sprayed some of this in her eye, and literally within like 2 days, her pink eye was gone. She sprayed it in her daughter's eyes; it was gone. She sprayed it, or she told the parents of those 2 preschoolers about it. They gave it to their kid; it like cleared up in 1 day. So hypochlorous acid, hypochlorous acid might be something that you guys might want to look into for cell turnover, helping things to heal faster. Not to say everybody's going to get pink eye, but I notice that whenever I get cuts and scratches, or just from being out and about, that if I spray that on there, it heals about 2-3 times faster than it would just if I left it alone. So I don't know, something to take a look into. The difference in the size of the pupils of, let's say, an unconscious person, or so like the person's like this and you're like opening their eye to take a look, like what's going on. Or a person who just had an injury or brain injury, you're noticing like different size pupils. They could have suffered a stroke, or they could be concussed. Either way, definitely need to go seek some medical attention. That's a big red flag. All right, so moving on. Okay, we looked at the breathing, we looked at the skin, we looked at their eyeballs, we asked them where the pain is, how are they doing. Now it's time to take a look at the ears, nose, and throat. So he's just asleep down there. So taking a look into the ears, if you start to pull on the bottom of the lobe here, and that kind of hurts the person, might be something going on inside the ear canal. They might have an ear infection, so it might be really tender. If you rub your fingers like this near their ear, and they're like, I don't hear that, there might be a blockage in there, or the person might actually, and there's a language barrier and they're not able to tell you, hey, I'm hard of hearing in one ear, do this. And if they're like, I don't hear anything, but oh, I hear something there. Okay, now we know that this is the good ear, this ear not so good. Or maybe this is recent. They did have good hearing or moderately good hearing in this ear, but now they're not hearing so good. There might be some sort of blockage. There might be an infection going on. So we just do this little rubbing, nothing loud, because you're not trying to like blow these people's eardrums out, We're not trying to blast Metallica in their ear. So just a little this. What? Riley uses an air horn. Anywho, it's one way to get their attention. Okay, so mouth and throat. So you want to take a little flashlight, or if you don't have a flashlight, go out into some broad daylight and get the sun like really shining inside of their mouth, and have them go ah. And if you have to, take a lollipop stem or a pencil or something to hold their tongue down, because you want to look you want to look at their tonsils. And I don't know if you guys really want to look in the inside of my mouth, but back there's a couple of what looks like nodules. Those are your tonsils, if you still have your tonsils and you didn't have them removed. If they look really swollen, like they're really red, they're bigger than you've seen them, in a normal person before. Like you look in your own mouth and you look in the sick person's mouth, you're like, wow, what's going on with you is not going on with me. So that must mean that you have really swollen tonsils. They're very red, or maybe they're pussy, or they might have spots on them. You want to write all this stuff down. You might notice that it's really pale on the inside of their mouth, or maybe there's a bunch of mucus back there. You want to write all this stuff down, or it's really dry, or they have really, really bad breath. Sometimes that's also a sign of infection of something. So write all that stuff down. What does it smell like? Is it hot? Is it cold breath? Is there mucus? Is there spots back there? Sometimes when people have strep throat, Streptococcus aureus, there's like little teeny tiny white dots that you might see on the uvula, which is your little dangler back there. And you see it on the far back of the throat, like past the hard palate. So it's the real soft palate back there, where your tonsils are. That's sometimes where you might see strep throat. So you want to just look at all of these things. What color is their tongue? Do you notice anything on their tongue? Did you look at their gums? Are their gums really pink? Are they white? Do they got spots on them too? Are they really dark colored? Write all this stuff down. Their nose. Is it plugged? Is it stuffy? They got weird, snot coming out their nose. What color is it? Sometimes the darker green something is, the more infection there is. So you want to look at the color and the smell of everything. It sounds gross, but we're trying to help people here. So look at the urine, look at the stool, look at the mucus, look at the watery, gunky, what's coming out of the eyes. Write all the stuff down. Does it have a scent to it? There might be sores as well. You might notice sores on the gums here, or you might notice sores on the lips or inside the lips. You want to write that stuff down too. The person might have more than one thing going on, which is why we have to take in, again, a whole evaluation. And why at the very beginning you say, okay, what hurts you the most? So like asking Vader, he might say, ow, 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 like my elbow hurts and my stomach hurts, but my head, oh, that's the one that's killing me the most. So that's what we want to focus on, really. I mean, we could look at those other things, but we want to look at the main issue. We'll treat that first. Costalius is Tara knows she's about to get asked some weird, hey, can you look at this questions? I get that a lot. Okay, so other things to look at with the skin other than how it feels to the touch and the color, but other things. Do you notice sores? Like open wounds? Are they weeping wounds? Somebody might have a spider bite. Does it look like a bullseye? That's probably a black widow. So all kinds of things. Write it all down. If you have to draw a diagram and color it in, go ahead. The more info, the better. Maybe they got splinters, and maybe they got a reaction to a splinter, that they have. Do they have rashes? Do they have welts? Is there spots or patches on their skin? Do they have any unusual markings like striations? That could mean something. Do you see inflammation in a certain part of the body? Is there a swelling or a puffiness? Are they really swollen like right here on their neck? Or are they really swollen in their cheeks? Is the right hand swollen and the left hand isn't? There could be a lymph blockage there, but definitely something to look at. Look at their lymph node areas. Your lymph nodes are in your neck. They're in your armpits. Okay, sir. They're in your groin. Don't be so juvenile, everyone. Anyway, so yeah, you want to look for swollen lymph nodes as well. Any abnormal lumps or masses? Yeah, my boyfriend's only 13 years old. Anyway. That's why they tell women to check their breasts, check for lumps, especially around near the armpit area. That could be, if there's a lump going on over there, possibly an infected lymph node, or it could have something to do with breast cancer or just, a benign lump, but we want to take a look. If you've noticed that somebody's having unusually thinning of the hair, I'm not talking about male pattern baldness or, just something that, by this age, everybody in my family started, thinning, or, I'm talking about this came on all of a sudden. The hair started falling out. It started thinning. It's lost its luster. Something is wrong. That's why they always say, look at the hair, look at the nails, look at the eye, look at the teeth. If any of those is out of whack, something's out of balance. Okay, time to look at the tummy. Well, Vader's actually sleeping on his tummy, so okay, he can't really tell you. So you should see when he rolls over, his legs are up in the air. He looks like dead dog. He's like, but he sleeps that way sometimes. It's so funny. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to lift my shirt or anything. But okay, here's my tummy. And let's say, I'm a child and I can't really point to where I hurt, but you notice that I keep like this and I'm really fussy and, okay, there's something either going on over here or there's something going on over here where they're trying to favor it, or they're trying to, hide it. They keep rolling over onto it. But if they can talk to you, say point to where on your abdomen you hurt, and they might say over here. Okay, I'm not going to press on where it hurts. I'm actually going to press on the other side. So I might do a little press, just like this. Actually, this is where the side of my ab muscles are. So I'm going to press in. I'm going to release really fast. And when I do that, I'm going to ask them how that felt. And they might say, it hurt a little bit, or that hurt a lot. Please don't do that. Okay, we probably got a gallbladder issue going on, but you want to do everything like when you're pressing on the body, you want to do it on the opposite side of where it actually hurts, because I'm not trying to cause the person more pain than they're already in. So if they hurt really badly here, I'm not going to be, hey, does this hurt? Of course it does. Like, duh. Okay. If they say, my stomach hurts, I don't know, the whole thing, it hurts. Okay. Put your ear to their tummy. A normal GI tract, you should hear a lot of gurgling going on in there. You should hear a lot of like, you don't even have to have just eaten. That's just what the body does. It's always constantly doing stuff in the large intestine, small intestine. So you're probably going to hear a whole gurgle factory. If it's silent, that's a bad sign. That means a person's clogged up, backed up, stuff isn't moving through the intestinal tract like it should. They said a silent belly is like a silent dog. Beware. But you know what? I'm not wary of Vader, and he is a silent dog. So, so maybe they need to change their wordage there. But yeah, definitely. If you don't hear any noises and you put your head to their chest, okay, that's really bad. There's something really clogged there, and they're going to need some attention soon. Okay, let's say the pain, okay, here's my chest, here's my diaphragm, the place where if you get hit and it takes your breath away, it really, really hurts. Okay, right here, if they say the pain is here, this might be an ulcer. So right here, my rib cage goes up like this. It's right here. So if a person has some acute pain here, it's going to be an ulcer. If you notice that the person started feeling pain around their belly button, but then the pain moved to the right side. So my belly button is right about where my button is here. My belly button's where my button is. Okay, there's pain here, but then a few days later, the pain radiated to my side over here. That is probably a sign of appendicitis. If you want to double check on that, again, we're going to press on the opposite side. Press down, not like you're not jamming your fingers in, you're just pressing down firmly and then letting go right away. And if they're like, oh, okay, probably appendicitis, probably going to need to get that checked out pretty soon. If you notice that the pain again is right underneath a rib cage, maybe this side, probably more like this side, and it radiates to their back, like they feel it back here as well as in the front here, that could be their gallbladder. And it might, they might start to have a lot of issue there. If there's a lot of pain here, at first you might think gallbladder, but it's radiating out to my chest and it really hurts. That could be your liver, actually. So make note of all of these things. If you're noticing pain down in your parts area, your genital parts, and you feel the pain radiating up, kind of like in a V shape, up and around your back. It's not super painful, but it's irritating. That might be a urinary tract infection. If you are female and you know that you might be pregnant or you are pregnant, and you start to feel a lot of pain on your sides here and you're feeling it in your lower back, right here, that could be a sign of an ectopic pregnancy. So you're going to want to get that checked out. Okay, so other things to look at. Okay, so that is all about the abdomen. Okay, now you want, when you're looking somebody straight on, you're going to tell them to smile. And if you notice one side's a little droopy, okay, now I've noticed that half my face is not responding, or that person's facial muscles are like, they're trying to smile. They might have had a stroke, or something else could be going on that's causing some sort of muscle paralysis on that side. So definitely have a look. If you notice that like one eye is a little lazier than the other, they're smiling, they can smile, but this eye is a little droopy or this eye is a little droopy, definitely want to take that into consideration as well. You're going to ask the person to open their eyes as wide as possible and then squeeze them shut. If you notice that they don't have the muscle to squeeze their eyes shut, there's some muscle weakness in that area. Okay, that's something we got to write down, that they have muscle weakness in trying to squeeze their eyes shut. And when they tried to open their eyes really wide, they were like this. I'm trying, you know? Okay, so they're having issues or they're really stoned. I don't know. Okay. Let's see. Arms and legs. Ask them if they have feeling in their arms and legs. Could be a pinched nerve somewhere. Could be something more serious. So definitely ask them, you know, any numb areas on the body. You are going to have certain people like squeeze, like put your hands out like this and have your patient squeeze your hands with all their might. You know, maybe they're like, and they were like, okay, wow, your strength is all there. I don't think you have any muscle weakness. But if they're like, like I can't, you know, okay, they got some muscle weakness in their hands for some reason. With their feet, you're going to have them push their feet against your hands and then try to pull their feet back when you pull on the bottom of their toes. So you're checking for muscle strength in the legs and feet. So we're checking to see where there might be weakness in the body. So pushing against the hands and then pulling away from the hands. What you also want to do is to measure around the thigh here and measure around their upper arm. Do they have the same measurements? Okay, people shouldn't really have the same measurement. You know, bicep to your thigh muscle. Your thigh muscle is pretty large. You have your hamstring in there, which consists of 4 muscles. You have your quadricep has 4 muscles. Your hamstring has 2 muscles. Sorry, I had that backwards. So there's a lot of muscle there, as opposed to the tricep, which has 3 little muscles, and then you have your bicep, which has 2 little muscles. Hence, tri and bi. But they're much smaller muscles. So this arm should be a lot smaller in circumference than my thigh. If you notice that a couple months ago, my thighs were bigger than my upper arms, but today my upper arms and my thighs are exactly the same. They're both little skinny rails. Okay, that's a problem. There's some major weight loss for some reason. We have some muscle loss and atrophy. What's going on here? You also want to ask a person to turn their hands over and back like this. You're testing their coordination. Sometimes what's going on in someone's brain, there might be some sort of disconnect with what's going on physically. So in their brain, they're trying to do this and they're like, wait, I thought I was turning my hands over. Okay, we have a little brain injury there. We got to take a look at that. Other thing is to have the person lift their leg up in the air, not too high, like 6 inches off the ground. I'm just lifting it higher so you guys can see. And let's say my leg starts trembling after just a few seconds, and then I got to put it down. Okay, it could be that the person's just, their muscles are naturally very weak. But if this is something new, and last week they probably would have been able to do that with ease, but today it's no go, then we have some muscle weakness for some reason. And that's something to take into consideration. Okay, lastly, muscle spasming. Okay, so let's say that a child's jaw is really stiff, and it's almost like locked jaw, and they can't like open it, and they keep sleeping like this, and they couldn't put their head between their knees if they wanted to. Their jaw is locked, their head is locked back, and their back is curved. So they're like this. Their back is curved, head is back, jaw is locked. That is a sign of tetanus. Or it's a severe infection, especially if the jaw is locked, maybe not so much the head being locked back or the back being curved. But if this is getting locked here, it could be a major tooth infection. It could be a major throat infection. Again, it could also be tetanus. Or if they just recently got into some sort of accident or they were rough housing, they might have dislocated their jaw if they don't have any like movement with their own jaw. So definitely go get that checked out. It might be dislocated. Let's see. If a child always has some stiff muscles and makes strange or jerky movements, they might have what's called spastic. Hey, Vader. Okay, so let me go over that with you guys. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so spastic is when you pick them up and their legs stay crisscross, just like this, like a pair of scissors. And it's really hard for them to move their legs. They just naturally are like this. They have jerky movements. It's hard for them to control their body. That could be a sign of cerebral palsy. So something to get looked at. Okay. If the strange or jerky movements have come on all of a sudden, and they have loss of consciousness, like they're just like fainting, and they might be having seizures, or if the seizures happen often, it might be epilepsy. So something to take a look into. If this is happening after a child has been ill, the cause may be a high fever or dehydration that is causing like the jerky movements and everything like that. So I think I wanted to talk, did I talk about dehydration? I'm trying to see if I have it in the notes. Okay, well, if you see that somebody might be suffering from dehydration, which you would know that if you like pinch the skin and it doesn't snap back right away, like let's say my skin stayed here and then it just slowly went down, I'm severely dehydrated. It is time to get a teaspoon of salt, maybe 4 to 6 tablespoons of sugar, and a liter of water. Mix it all up. It's time for me to chug that. So that's another thing. If you notice like a baby's been vomiting a lot, diarrheaing a lot, or a human, like adult has been, baby human. Okay, an adult or a baby has been throwing up a lot, having a lot of diarrhea, they're losing a lot of fluids, especially if they can't keep food down. You're going to try various ways to try to keep what they can get in, try to get it into their system, hence the salt and the sugar, because hopefully that'll stick in there even if they keep flushing out the fluids. So just keep trying to put it in. If you can get them to eat something, I would say maybe like a teaspoon of salt, a liter of water, and 6 tablespoons of powdered cereal, like cream of wheat or something like that. Mix it all together so that way the salt is in the oatmeal or the cream of wheat, and they can retain some of the fluid that way. Definitely try to get them to eat foods if they can, their favorite foods, maybe especially a baby, or well, if it is a baby and they're still a breastfeeding age, try to breastfeed as much as possible, just trying to keep those fluids in there until they start to feel a little bit better. And I think that is it. I'm just making sure I didn't lose anything. Okay, so yeah, definitely feel around. Are there really tender spots on the body? Do they favor one side or the other? Is this happening immediately after an accident that they just had, or a sickness or an illness they just had, and now these are like some of the leftover symptoms? Just all things to take into consideration. Like I said, I will take a picture of that form, how to examine a person, and you guys can use that. I will put that on my YouTube channel page. You print it out for yourself, or change it however you need to, and that way you can use it on yourself. You could use it for friends, use it for others, and at least you'll have a record of like what's been going on, and you can present this to a medical professional, or if you are the medical professional and you are the master of your own medicine, then you can use that to start sleuthing as to what the best course of treatment is for you. Like I said, some things might mask other things, or they might appear as other things, like somebody having a seizure and it looks like it's coming from a particular illness, but I didn't know that they had actually also bumped their head, so I might be erroneously treating them for an illness when actually it's from a concussion they have, and they're having some traumatic brain injury, and so that's got to be treated differently. So it's a little bit of trial and error on how to care for that person. But this wasn't about caring for people quite yet. This was more just trying to figure out, like, I care and I want to figure out what's wrong. So let's put all your symptoms down and let's write down all the signs. And then we could start putting everything together like the game of Clue and try to figure out what is wrong with you. Okay. All right. Let's head back over to our little nook. Good coffee. Well, Vader, you're going to come with me? I'm going like 20 feet. Okay. Down we go. Lilith had said, cute Vader. He is volunteering as tribute. All right. So hopefully you guys found that helpful today. I hope that you were able to like take screenshots or go back and do the replay and take screenshots of some of those books, some of those O'Reilly's books, for, some first aid when you're out and about and, there's no real doctor or medical professional around. The more knowledge you have about taking care of some things for yourself, more empowered you'll be, but also the more you can understand about your body. And the more you go inwards, the more you understand how, when certain things are out of whack spiritually, how they could be showing up in my body physically. Okay. Something else I want to share with you guys. Oh, I almost forgot my tea. That's good tea. I wanted to talk about an herbal ally for this week. Speaking of people who may be sick or type of illness, burdock. Burdock is really good. It's used a lot in Chinese medicine, but it's good all around the world if you can get your hands on some burdock. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and I'm going to show you the books that I am pulling some of my information on burdock. Of course, as you guys know, I have like a whole library of books on herbs and like home apothecary, but I think these two books have some good information on burdock. So burdock, this type of burdock that I have is actually the root. So it would be really good for decoctions, because if I were to put this in some boiling water and just let it steep for like 5 minutes, I wouldn't be able to truly extract the nutrients from the root, because it's so dense. So usually a decoction is when, like, let's say I put 2 cups of water on the stove, bring it to a boil, but I let it boil down until it's about half, till it's about now 1 cup. Now it's had enough time and enough heat to truly extract like some of that harder stuff, like a root. So if you do have some root, probably decoction is the best. And then you can use it for salves. Then you can make it into a tea, whatever you want to use it for. But it has a very spicy, earthy smell to me. Like, and it doesn't smell bad. It smells really good, actually. It smells like an herbalist's home pharmacy. Like if I were to describe like how a home pharmacy would smell like, it smells like burdock. I don't know why that is. Maybe a lot of people got burdock hanging around. Okay, so first, let's take a look at Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, and see what he has to say about how our magical ancestors used it in possibly like folk healing and folk magic. Okay, so burdock. It is associated with healing and with protection. Magical uses, they said, cast around the home. It was used back in the day to ward off negativity. It was added to protection incenses. People would gather burdock root during the waning moon, which is actually what we're in right now because we're getting ready for the new moon on Tuesday. They would dry it and then cut it into small pieces. They would string these on red thread like beads and wear them for protection against evil and negativity. The leaves of the burdock, when laid to the soles of the feet, were said to help cure gout. Well, I can definitely see where they would rely on it for protection because it was, I mean, it still is used regularly in healing. And if it could ward off disease in the body, then, they figured, as above, so below. If it's able to do that, it's probably able to ward off some nasty spirits as well. Okay, so let's take a look at what our other book has to say. And this book I'm about to show you, I've had in my library probably about 20 years. And it's called Wise Woman Herbal, and it's called Healing Wise. And this is by Susan S. Weed. And in this book, there's only a handful of herbs that the author talks about. But for her, like, those are the only 4 or 5 herbs that you're ever going to need. I mean, it's not like our other herbal allies don't offer some wonderful healing attributes or can't be used, in other ways. But for her, those are the most readily accessible. They're the easiest to grow in her garden. And so they're the ones she wants to talk about. They're the ones that she's meditated on. She's used in all different forms of medicine and the food that her family eats, so that it's like they're constantly in contact with these herbal allies. And you could do that, if you wanted to build a stronger relationship with an herbal ally. Like, let's say basil. I love basil. I love the scent of basil. I think it's great for aromatherapy. I think it's really great when rubbed on the forehead, especially to help with certain types of headaches, not all headaches. I think peppermint's better for that, but certain other things, certain aromatherapy. It's really good in foods. But it's also really good at keeping certain pests out of your home, so if you wanted to have it growing out in your garden, it helps with its strong scent, can help keep the bugs that are attracted to tomato plants at bay, so that way the tomatoes can grow and thrive, and so basil is kind of helping them out with that. So the more you can incorporate an herb that you like, I'm just using basil for an example. Eat with it, if it's, as long as it's not toxic, eat with it, heal with it, put it in your beauty regimen, morning routine. See what happens when you bathe with it, when you do aromatherapy with it, when you put it in your hair, maybe it's a type of fiber that could be used in clothing. I don't know. So the more you can make it your friend on a day-to-day basis, the deeper connection you have, deeper understanding of the ins and outs, and then it just becomes like second nature. Like, oh, I've got this going on. Boom, basil. Because I know exactly what that plant is great for. So just something to keep in mind, and that's what this author had did. Basically, she made besties with like 5 herbs, and those are the only 5 herbs she needs for any ailment. It doesn't matter what it is. So it grows in her garden in plenty. And she has like this whole, I like the way it's set up with these different herbs. Here, I'll show you about burdock. So she has the burdock root properties and uses. So she goes into all of that. And then she talks about how it could be used as a nourishing tonic. She talks about how it could be used as a skin clearer. She talks about how it can bring down the temperature in the body if that's something that you need. She talks about how it's really good at detoxing the guts. Like, maybe you've eaten too much crap lately and we got to just like get some of that out. She also talks about how it's really great for women who are still on their menstrual cycle and how it helps with the flow. She also goes into burdock seed. So maybe you don't have the root, but you have burdock seed. And so she goes into all of those, but they're like written down like little narratives, like little stories. And I think that's so cute. So although I'm not going to read the whole chapter on burdock to you guys, I will read what I think is the standouts. But if you guys want, try to find this book. I found this book secondhand. It was like $2. So $2. Yeah. Great book for $2. Okay. Burdock root properties and uses. A little bit more coffee. It's a nutritive tonic, such as anti-scorbutic, hypoglycemic. It's an alternative. Xanthamatis, depurative, anti-oncotic, anti-tumor. It's an antipyretic, anti-rheumatic, antibiotic, and anodyne. It's a rejuvenative, aphrodisiac, estrogenic, cholagogue, and for pulmonary. It's a stomatic, carminative, aperient, which varies based on the kind it says, and it's an astringent. It's a urinary tonic, a diuretic, demulcent. Fresh burdock root could also be really good for bacteriostatic, but fungi-static, diaphoretic. Wow, I'm like getting my Latin vocab here. What? Oh, februge, and it's a strong diuretic and tonic. Again, that's in the fresh burdock, but I have dried burdock, obviously. Okay, so it says, with so many abilities to offer, it is no wonder that burdock is a beloved ally of wise women and herbalists everywhere. Burdock's action is most profound on the lymph, sweat, and oil glands, though its influence is felt in the liver, lungs, kidneys, stomach, uterus, and joints. Medicines made from the fresh burdock root are always preferable and superior to dried root preparations. Well, I can't have like fresh everything around the house, so I have some dry burdock. Burdock is not for people in a hurry or most acute problems. Burdock works thoroughly and slowly. Use burdock root as a nourishing tonic, a skin clearer, a super cooler, a slick trick in the guts, and a guardian of your inner flows. So a dose of fresh burdock root tincture is about 30 to 240 drops a day in water. A dose of dried burdock root infusion is about 1/2 to 2 cups of that infusion per day. A dose of burdock root decoction is 1 to 2 teaspoons a day. There's a little quote with burdock. Burdock is a widely used blood purifier and alternative, stronger than sarsaparilla, but less energetic than echinacea, and with a little of the intestinal effects of yellow dock. Okay, moving on. Let's see. What part do I want to read? Because there's a lot of information. Like I said, I don't want to read the whole chapter to you guys. Oh, how about this? How about the slick trick in the guts? The sticky fiber in burdock root energizes the peristaltic muscles as it soothes and nourishes the mucous surfaces of the intestines. This mucilaginous fiber also absorbs chemical residues, metabolic breakdown byproducts, and metal contaminants, then binds them and escorts them rapidly through the large intestine. Burdock root can neutralize and eliminate poisons and toxins in the digestive tract. Try the fresh infusion or tincture of burdock when fasting to help maintain intestinal peristalsis and prevent ketosis and acidic overload in the blood. Try fresh burdock root as a cooked vegetable once a week or more, or the fresh root tincture, which is 20 to 30 drops in water up to 4 times daily. Least effective for those with intestinal problems, but still helpful, is the infusion of dried burdock root. Intestinal flora responds to fresh burdock root preparations quite favorably. Try burdock along with your other wise woman ways for helping those with candida, yeast overgrowth, chronic stomach aches, colitis, and colon cancer. Ellen Greenlaw says, burdock is like a cleaning woman or a garbage collector, essential to modern life, but underpaid and undervalued. She's the old ragamuffin of herbs. Okay, so I think she had in here, the fresh burdock leaf properties, but she also has like pharmacy ingredients, like what you could make. You can make a vinegar poultice. You can turn it into like the most awesome fertilizer for your garden ever. Different ways to utilize it in the kitchen. Like if you wanted to cook with burdock and actually serve it, you can have burdock and brown rice, chicken fried burdock stalks, Japanese sweet and sour gobo, the fast root, herbed burdock, burdock stock marmalade. spring tonic soup, summer flush soup, supper. So yeah, all kinds of ways that, you know, you don't just have to take it medicinally. You can incorporate it into your foods and, you know, it'll do its thing, but also you get something tasty in the process. That's why I love this book. It's such a good book. Okay, here are some fun facts, and then we will get on to our super chats and super stickers today, if you guys are interested. And then we will do a little guided meditation, maybe with Burdock. We'll see if Burdock is wanting to lead us in a guided meditation. We shall see. Okay, Burdock, fun facts. Let's see. Okay, Cyclopedia of Horticulture, a well-respected reference, actually recommends burdock as a fast-growing foliage mass to provide a visual barrier. Those people that don't want to see their neighbors or, or don't want their neighbors to see them might want to look at burdock as it grows quickly and it's a very dense barrier. By the time European settlers had the time to write down native uses of herbs, burdock was well established as an excellent herbal medicine among the Cherokee, Chippewa, Menominee, Meskwaki, Otos, Abenaki, Omaha, Ojibwe, Iroquois, Nanticoke, Penobscot, Potawatomi. Sorry, some tribe names we don't have over on this side of the United States, so they're harder for me to pronounce. Mohican and Delaware. A single burdock plant can bear over 400,000 seeds. Think about the mullein that I showed you guys before, where like I shook the mullein and literally these teeny tiny little seeds, like probably like 200 seeds fell in my hand, but that whole stalk probably has thousands of seeds. So burdock is much the same. And of these, as many as 30,000 harbor and nourish insect larvae. Ah, that's so nice. Burdock was well known to Shakespeare and is mentioned in Troilus and Cressida, King Lear, and As You Like It. Thanks to Deborah Hoog in Nature's Uncultivated Garden for inspiring the fast root and burdock and brown rice recipes. So the recipes that are in this book, inspired by that person. Burdock root was official in the U.S. Pharmacopoeia from 1831 to 1913 and in the National Formulary from 1916 to 1947. Good stuff. The Herbalist, one of the first herbal magazines, featured burdock in June of 1978 in an article by U. Bentalov called The Great Burdock. Tumor Growth Inhibiting Substances of Plant Origin by S. Foldick and G. Dombrati in Acta Physiology and Chemistry mentions burdock. So really good at inhibiting tumor growth. That's cool. The Chemical Constituents of Oriental Herbs, published by Oriental Healing Arts Institute in Los Angeles, California, has an extensive section on burdock. The Biology of Canadian Weeds by R. Gross in the Canadian Journal of Plant Science has good drawings and interesting information also on it. So this plant is like all over the world. Japanese research into burdock properties is frequently reported in various professional journals, such as the 2-polyacetylenic phytoalexins from Arcturium lapa in phytochemistry. And lastly, according to Medical Chemistry by C.M. Sutter, 1951, John Wiley says that Arctium minus inhibits the growth of gram-positive bacteria such as staph and strep. Oh, so no Streptococcus aureus or Staphylococcus aureus. Ooh, good stuff, you guys. Okay. So on that note, as I have a little sip of tea here, if you guys are interested in doing super chats or super stickers, we could do that now. I do have some decks lined up if you're interested. Otherwise, we can go straight into doing a little healing guided meditation, perhaps with little burdock here. I have the Daily Dose of Coffee Oracle. I was trying to remember the name that my friend V-Love over at V-Love and Crystals, she made that deck. And also, I have Tarot for the Great Outdoors. I like this one because it depicts different pictures of like different national forests all across the United States. So, good stuff in there. And also, my friend Steph over in Belgium, she sent me this deck of playing cards, but I liked the pictures. They're really good for my intuition. It's called Random Galaxy, but it's basically kitties and doggies eating like pizza and burgers and French fries in outer space. I like it. It's cute. All right. So Costalini says this week I found a bunch of tiny little pimples all over my left hip. I know soul, feminine side again. I've never had acne there before, so I'm just curious why the new symptoms. Oh, okay. So let's dive in. Oh, too bad you're here. I would use you as like my my practice like medical patient to show everybody, okay, so this is what we're gonna do to Costalini. We're gonna press in right here, see if this hurts. Look into his eyes, look at his tonsils. But of course, we want to know the spiritual reason too. So we'll take a lookie. What deck do I want to use? I think I'll use Tarot for the Great Outdoors. That's a fun deck. Okay. Put the cafe there. Okay. Let's tap in. Maybe we'll get something on the spiritual radio 111 FM, 111.1. Okay. Okay, I have Rod Stewart playing in my head right now. It's so interesting. If you want my body and you think I'm sexy, come on, baby, let me know. If you really need me, just reach out and touch me. Okay, so that's playing in my head. That's interesting. So, what do those lyrics or that song title have to do with what's going on with the little pimples on your left hip? Okay, let's go ahead and pull a card. Costalina says, as long as you don't pop them on live stream. Wow. Well, this is like, well. Okay. Ooh, we have the Page of Blades, which is like your Page of Swords. Interesting. As we know, Page is like the novice, just beginning. So what was coming through was external perception. Like I was seeing a friend of mine that way back in high school. Like we had been good friends since I had moved to Chula Vista. So we had been friends for a really long time, since elementary school. And when he got older and he reached puberty, he noticed that he had exaggerated hips, kind of like a female. And so he was so self-conscious of his hips. He thought it made him look girly, because he felt like he had a girlish figure and he didn't have like the way he thought like guys should have, like the broad shoulders and the tiny waist, and like, he thought he should have all this upper body, but he had all this lower body. But his genetics were just kind of taking after his mom, in that respect. But he was so worried about what people thought of him. And in actuality, nobody else looked at his hips. Everybody just looked at him for him. Like he was a really nice guy. He was in theater. He was funny, but only he thought that everybody must be staring at my hips because I stare at my hips all day long. And I think that they're not masculine. I need to have men hips. So what was coming through is that as you're going through this, balancing the divine feminine with the divine masculine and embracing what the divine feminine has to offer while also embracing what, divine masculine has to offer and how they can help each other out to help you lead this wonderful, beautiful life. But there still is some of this belief that you're still working through, which, gets passed down from society, family members, things like that, is that if we embrace divine feminine or try to at least understand the divine feminine in ourselves, somehow that's going to show up on my body. Somehow, that somehow, like, by me embracing my feminine, that's like going to give me hips, or it's going to make me look a little too girly or a little too feminine. It's not the case. It's an energy, but we always attribute the energy to being the actual gender, like females should look like this and males should look like this. So it's the ego trying to understand what you're doing right now. Like you're trying to embrace this divine feminine. Does that mean being a girl? Does that mean that I have to dress more like feminine, or like I have to change my mannerisms, or like, is that going to start showing up on my body? I'm going to start looking softer instead of harder, So what does that actually mean? So it's just a little fight with some past programming. So I wouldn't say it's I don't see it as like a glaring, because it's only like a little page of swords. So I don't see it as like this is one of your main belief systems, but it's just something that you've come upon in your journey right now with the divine feminine, is how people perceive you. And so with the feminines, it's interesting because, and again, we always attribute it to gender, but some people feel like the divine feminine is the one that is so worried about like how people are looking at me. But think about it. The feminine energy is feeling and intuition. It's not about trying to analyze the outside world. It's just about creativity. And it's like all these like wild things just flowing through me. And it just flows and flows. And it has no care about what's going on in the outside world. It's the masculine that takes what's there, takes all the ingredients, and then tries to create structure into the 3D world. It wants to bring everything into form. And so it would be concerned with what's going on in the outside world because it's trying to figure out how to take all this feminine and bring it into our 3D, how we can utilize this in our human life. That's not all the masculine does, but just to simplify it. And so what's coming up right now is the masculine's like, whoa, all this stuff is flowing through me. I feel like that's going to look a little too feminine. Like I feel like people aren't seeing me the way I want them to see me. So it's very much a conflict of or a worry with perception. I'm worried how people are going to perceive me. I worry that this is going to have an effect on my social life. I worry, this, I worry that. But that's the shadow side of the masculine in the ego. Nothing bad, just something to know that's there. Obviously, it's coming up as the little pimples, because what do we think of when we think of pimples or pimples on the face? Like, oh my gosh, I got to get rid of that. I got to use, what did they use back in the day? OxyClean, or maybe that was for detergent. I don't know. Whatever, like the Oxy girl, where they were always like showing her smooth, clean face. You always want a bright face. You don't want any pimples on your face. You don't want people to see you going through adolescence, for goodness sake. So anyway, so those little like rash mark pimples, like little goose flesh pimples that are on your hip, is just the body's outward expression of like, oh no, everybody's gonna see, everybody's gonna see my feminine. I'm scared. What's gonna go on? Okay, so let's take a look. Michael Stellini is like, ooh, like being a soy boy. If I change my mindset, I'll look like a Reddit mod. That idea. And Cass says, that she had sent a PayPal. Oh, thank you so much. So we'll definitely get to you next. Costalina says, gosh, that is so cool. I think you nailed it because I've had related thoughts like, how will my friends think of me if I'm acting differently? So yes, it's just the shadow side of the masculine. I'm not like dissing the masculine at all. I mean, it has a very definitive role. It can take all that cool, wild energy and it can make some really awesome things. But in getting overly concerned with its outside environment, that's when it goes into its shadow. And it's like, oh, well, if I take all that cool creativity or that cool intuition and I start bringing that into like 3D, like you were just saying, how are people going to start looking at me weird? Are they going to be like, Costalini, you changed? It's like, I don't know how that's going to make me feel. I'm worried what others are going to think of me. Whereas the feminine's like, I don't care. You are going to take my wild creativity. um, so, but that there's a balance to each other. When they come together, they make some beautiful harmony. They make some beautiful music, some beautiful things. So yeah, it's just a little talking to or a little chat with and trying to understand like, hey, where did this, hello, in my ego, my Costalina ego, where did this come from originally? Like, where is this a societal thing? Could be a family thing. And then just doing a little show like, I've already been working with the feminine and it's been helping me. And here are the ways it's been helping me so that you could put its fears at ease, and then continue doing what you're doing, in spite of the, the shadow side coming up and being like, oh my gosh, this looks weird. But, it's your journey, nobody else's. You are very, very welcome, my friend. Okie dokie. Let's have a little sip of tea and look at our friend Cass. Okay, Cass says, would love some guidance from my ancestors. Been going through so much and I'm just exhausted in every way. All righty. I love connecting with the ancestors. That'll be fun. And Costalina says, they actually showed up around when my friend, very hot, got angry at me for just speaking my mind at a bar. And I replied with, I don't care. Nice. I don't care. I just hear that song in my head. That's awesome. Hopefully that doesn't play in your head every time you're like, I don't care. I don't care. All right. Okay, so Kath, let's take a look at any guidance that your ancestors may be able to express upon you, to aid you through this kind of difficult time that you're traversing through. Okay, I'm gonna stick with this deck. I like this one. I like the bright colors and all the different places in the world. It's just really cool. Okay. Okay. We are going to the 90s band called Garbage, and the song title is Special. I thought you were special. I want you to know, but I run out of patience. I'm tired of the silence. I couldn't care less. You were the talk of the town. You were the talk of the town. I thought you were special. I thought you were special. All right, so let's find out why that song is playing. We'll pull you a card. Costalini's like, love it. Okay, so, ooh, Nine of Stones. First of all, I still love a lot of songs from that band. So your ancestors have some good taste. I want to start off with that. And the Nine of Stones here, you see with the little mushroom friends. And why do mushrooms grow, or where do they grow? They grow where things are fertile, but there's a lot of decomposition and just kinds of good stuff happening, such nutrient rich soil, which pairs well with Nine of Stones, which is like your Nine of Pentacles. And you would usually see that as somebody feeling just satisfied with themselves and just so abundant and all of that. Okay, so let's tap in and how that connects to the song by Garbage Special. Thought you were special. Okay, so it's your ancestors kind of want to pull a little bit from Costolini's reading, and they said the reason that reading had to come first was because it would make more sense during your reading. So remember we were talking about with Costolini, although I mean his was it was focused on his divine feminine, and the masculine. But the aspect of his reading where it was saying that he was, at least a little shadow part of him, is concerned about the outside world, what other people are thinking of him. And your ancestor said that that's a lot of what plays into much of our anxiety and stress and overall weariness, is that we're always trying to play up to others' expectations. It could be family expectations, the world's expectations. So when we're faced with some difficult things going on in our life, let me pull just like a rando example. Let's say we're caring for a sick family member, since literally earlier we were talking about examining a sick person. Let's say I'm caring for a sick family member, and that's just really draining on me because I got a lot of other stuff going on in my life, but I also got to care for this person. And so there's already that takes a lot out of us. But then on top of it, there's the ego portion, the shadow side, that says, well, I have to care for this person in a way where they would be proud of me, and other people would look at me as being helpful, that I'm not just getting in the way. So then it becomes, instead of just focusing on helping this person and doing what I need to do in my life, now I'm worried how people are perceiving me in that endeavor. And also I'm comparing myself to others as well. I'm comparing myself to other people who've cared for other sick people, and it seemed like they also were able to do everything else in their life with ease. And it seems like then it feels like more pressure on my own shoulders, that I'm not living up to how easy it seems to be for other people, but it seems so hard for me. Or it seems like, so it's this very comparative nature on top of trying to do things subconsciously. I don't think you'd be conscious of this, but subconsciously trying to feel worthy, that I'm doing all these things to prove my worthiness in this 3D world, so that when somebody asks me, hey, what are you doing right now? You could say, I am taking care of a sick person. I also, I'm really struggling with paying the bills right now. And I'm working 2 jobs. And also I have mouths to feed at home. And also, this and this and this. And societally speaking, not just in one particular country, but this happens in multiple countries, where it's like the more we say we do and the more stressed we seem to be, the more we get a badge of honor. Like it's an unspoken badge of honor to feel like you have so much on your plate and you're so worn down and you're burning the wick at both ends, so it's a multi-layered thing. It's a worrying about how other people are perceiving me, and that attributes it to my worthiness. But also, what makes me worthy is dependent on how many things I can do. And even though logically or even consciously we might say, well, I, want to be happy. I want to be stress free and anxiety free, and I want to get all the things I want to do, but I want to be happy doing it. But society says, well, just generally speaking. So society says, well, if you seem just happy with life and everything's going great, you must not be working hard enough. And so instead we bring down our merits and things like that. So we seem more humble. We seem like I'm working really hard and I'm trying not to boast and I'm trying to stay modest and I'm not trying to be better than anybody else, you know? And so um, your ancestors are like, you can only be you. And the more you try to live for the even subconscious approval of others or trying to prove your worth to others, it's going to be a fruitless endeavor. It's going to be a very difficult life, you know, with all the things that are going on, because now we see all the things as I have to do all of these and I have to wear this burden because it's a part of my worth, my self-worth on this planet. But instead, if we're like, I already am worthy because I'm a child of the creator. I was born worthy, and I do the best that I can do. I help others the best that I can. And it doesn't matter what all these other people think of me, because they're all on their own journey, you know, and I'm not living their life. They're not living my life. What they think of me doesn't matter at all. Then all of a sudden, even though you might have the same amount of things on your plate, it doesn't feel as intense. It doesn't feel as heavy because everybody else's weighing in thoughts and emotions are not a factor anymore. So just like the rich soil here, your ancestors are asking you to go inwards and have a little chat with the worth, the self-worth. Who instilled some of those beliefs in you about worth? And what makes you worthy? What makes a worthy person? What is praised in your family or society, and what is shunned? You know, who gets all the attention and who doesn't? All of that was factored in, you know, at a very early age. And as you grew up, maybe certain things were enforced. So just like the very rich soil that our certain mushroom friends can grow in, whatever is fed multiplies. So if we're feeding into the idea that my self-worth comes from outside of myself, then things are going to multiply that will reinforce that idea, causing more burden, more chaos, more feelings of heaviness. But they want you to know that you were born worthy. You were born capable. You are a beautiful person. And so now I understand why the song Special came up, is because it's almost like the ego saying, oh, you thought you were special. You thought you were special. And your ancestors like, damn right, she's special. Like she is. Don't say it sarcastically. She is. She has a lot to offer and she's doing her best. And now she needs to know that she's worthy in doing her best. So hope that makes sense. Kath says, I seem to get the 90s rock. I know the 90s rock just like surrounds you, and maybe it just surrounds your ancestors too, but I like their taste in music. I'm gonna have that jamming in my head. You are very welcome, Kath. By the way, love the energy of your ancestors. And it was interesting because it was like the United Nations in there. It was like you had an ancestor from literally every part of the world, and they were at this like round table, and they were like coming together, like, yes, yes. Like, if only she knew how wonderful she is, you know. And then what she is doing is, you know, that she doesn't need to pile on more to feel like she is more. She already is more, you know. So you're very welcome, my friend. All righty, let's have some more of that tea. Okay. If anybody would like to do super chat or super sticker, let me know. Otherwise, I was thinking of inviting Burdock in to help us with a channeled guided meditation. You know what I always get once in a while? I get the eyelash that turns around. It wants to be in my eyeball. I was talking with a friend of mine, wink, wink, about like, she's like, well, why you get so much eyelashes and things in your eyes? And I was saying, maybe in a past life I had my eyes gouged out, past life fun. Mm. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get into that guided meditation. Let me just move some things out of the way and get you guys a little bit closer to our goodness over here. Oh, so a really good eyelash in there. I don't know why they turn around and why they want to be difficult. I have like really long eyelashes and they get stuck in there. Okay. Lilith says, so I've been getting zapped every time I go to the grocery store when I touch metal, but then it happened when I was taking out the trash and I'm wondering why this is. Okie dokie. And by the way, thank you, Kath and Lilith and everybody who uses the PayPal donations, because obviously PayPal takes less than YouTube does. But yeah, overall, thank you. Everybody does super chat, super stickers, and PayPal. So thank you. Okay. Let's use the random galaxy playing cards because random galaxy. I mean, these cards are the bomb diggity. Okay. I just would like to place these over here. There we go. Okay, so grocery store zapping when you touch metal. Okay, aside from our static electrical charge, let's find the spiritual reason. Okay. Turn in the dial on Spirit 111.1 FM. Oh gosh, who sang this song? Was it Color Me Bad? I forget. Okay, well, I'll just sing it for you. Very early 90s, if not late 80s. Ooh, ooh, da da do, da do. Ooh, da da do, da do. The very first time that I saw your brown eyes, my lips in a dime. Ooh, da da do, da do. But I was caught up in physical attraction, but to my satisfaction. It was what? Shy. Baby, you are more than just a friend. And if I ever fall in love again, I will be sure that the lady is a friend. And if I fall in love, oh so true, I will be sure that the lady's just like you. um, Lois said yes, shy. If I ever fall in love. Okay, so let's see what that has to do with your metal zapping at the grocery store most recently. Okay. Oh, okay. So we have a King of Hearts card, and I don't know if you can see in there, but we have a sloth riding a unicorn giraffe, and there's a taco and lots of burritos. I tell you, I love these cards, and I love how funkily it messes with my intuition. Okay, so let's tap into our sloth unicorn giraffe taco rainbow. Okay. Okie dokie. Okay, so you know how you were talking about, um, for a while kind of feeling desensitized as you were working through things, and all of a sudden it felt like the floodgates had opened, and you were working through, doing some shadow work and everything. So since that floodgate opening, and you've been working a lot on, and it might not seem like it's heart centered, but there was a lot of heart centered stuff. There was a lot of heart healing that was going on. And although you may say, well, I was healing stuff with this person and this situation and this past, um, a lot of it was healing how you see yourself and how you love yourself. And I know that that has come up in other readings. And since you have been working on it, there's like this, I don't know, conflict with what the soul wants and what the ego wants. Isn't there always conflict? But you've been doing all this healing. Soul's like, all right, I'm ready to kind of start opening myself up, as vulnerable as it may feel, but I owe it to myself, because just like we were talking about with Kath and her ancestors talking to her, you are also a worthy person. We're all worthy. We're all from the creator. So we're worthy. We come from some great stuff, man. So as you're starting to see all the true beautiful things about yourself, and really honoring those wonderful beautiful things about yourself, and all the things that you're able to do, not just here in the physical, but what you're able to do in the spiritual, what you do energetically, what you do unspoken, and even sometimes even without action, just helping people in the vicinity around you. And it seems like you're not doing anything, but your energy is doing quite a bit. And the ego is like, no, I'm not ready to let anybody in yet, because look how crazy the world is. Look, everybody's off their rocker. But what's it really saying? Like, get below the surface. It's really saying, if I open myself up, somebody's going to hurt me. And I've been hurt pretty bad in the past. So I'm going to make up the excuse that the world has gone nuts, which, by the way, is valid. A lot of crazy things, but there's a lot of beautiful things going on out there. But the ego would only have us see one thing, because it's trying to maintain its narrative. So it says the whole world's lost its damn mind. Everybody's crazy. And I'm protecting myself by not interacting with them, and by keeping them at arm's length. I am protecting my heart, I'm protecting my energy, I'm protecting my emotions, because they are going to hurt me. When that's only one piece of the puzzle. The soul knows better. The soul's like, man, you've done so much. You are so beautiful. You have so much to offer so many people. Keeping it to yourself is doing humanity an injustice. So that zapping that you're feeling is the soul being like, hey, people are ready to get drawn to you. Like, everybody's like ready to start coming to you, just like in the song, if I ever fall in love again, that people are ready to fall in love with your energy. People are ready to fall in love with your healing. They want to get to know you. But the ego is saying they don't exist, and they do. So that's truly what's coming through. And Costalina was saying, I love this card set. Lilith says, I almost feel Pavlov conditioned. I know, right? Makes you want tacos later. Ooh. No, we're having burgers. Maybe tacos tomorrow. Maybe burrito. So yeah, so that is the illusion of the ego, to say that basically everybody's crazy out there. I'm protecting myself. When it's not really protection, it's hiding. It's hiding your light, hiding your love, hiding all that healing that you have to offer everybody else. But the ego doesn't know that yet about itself, because it's only got a one-track mind. It's only got, what happened in the past, is going to repeat in the present. It's like this broken record. And so it feeds us these one-sided narratives, when the soul's like, okay, true, there's a lot of craziness in the world, but there's so much beauty too. You deserve to integrate and connect with that beauty, connect with that healing, connect with those people. It's okay to open back up again. So again, the zapping, zip, 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 is you are ready to like magnetize, bring people to you, to your sphere. You have a lot to offer. You don't have to get all healed, all completely healed before you can offer people what you're good at right now, this like very minute at like 5:15. So I hope that makes sense. Lilith says, that's some deep intervention right there. Okay, I'm gonna trust my higher self. Yeah, I mean, you know what? The higher self never steers us wrong. The ego would have had us lost in Albuquerque somewhere, you know. Always get lost in Albuquerque. But the soul's like, dude, where we're going, we don't need roads. So all right. So thank you everybody who donated either through PayPal or through the super chat super stickers. I always appreciate reading for you guys. I learn so much through your readings, and I like that you guys are vulnerable enough to share your readings with everybody else in the chat, because I know it helps other people too. So if you would like, we are going to get started with our guided meditation. Lilith, you are very welcome, my friend. Mwah. All right. So let's scoochy in here. Woo. Let's get down to herbal or herbalness. Herbally goodness. Okay. Ooh, maybe I'll even bring the legs of this tripod down. Yeah. Beep, beep.
Well, the PG said, you never give up because you don't fail until you quit.
So Lilith Riley said, what'd you say? Say it again.
Never give up.
Never give up.
Never stop.
Never stop.
You don't fail
Because you never fail until you quit. I like that. You know, sometimes he's pretty wise. Sometimes. Okay, we have our friend Burdock here. Going to help us out with this guided meditation. You know, I'm actually going to hold some in my hand just to do a little like physical connection. Okay, so got some burdock in my hand. Hello. And I'm gonna have a little sip of tea and coffee. Okay, so thinking about all the things that burdock represents, you know, that it's a cleaner. It's basically a detoxifier. It helps us in all the ways of flow, cleaning out our guts, but also, you know, helping the monthly flows of our female friends, and helping to purify and cleanse. So perhaps in this upcoming week, we can look to burdock to aid us, like our little herbally friend. You know, it's like, well, you know how best to help clean out what isn't useful in our environment or what doesn't serve us anymore in terms of our thoughts or our beliefs or things that have been programmed into us. Burdock, help me out. You know, you're good at this stuff, so help me. So something to look forward to, and possibly incorporate, even if you don't have physical burdock by your side this week, you can always tap into its energy. Everything is energetic. And so, you know, even if it doesn't grow wild in your area, just looking to it and say, hey, help me to be more in flow, or help me to be unencumbered by what the outer world is trying to press upon me at the moment, or perhaps there are some things I need to release. And so burdock would be wonderful for that. And also, I guess, our message for the week. So, all right, burdock, help us out, homie. Lilith says, copy, Captain Riley. Oh. Okay. Go ahead and get into a nice, comfortable space, a place you'll be undisturbed for the next several minutes. You could be lying in your bed, sitting in a chair, perhaps seated on the floor, or you are lying underneath your favorite tree. Any place that is comfortable for you. And as you begin to settle in, go ahead and bring your awareness to your breath. And no, we're not doing a self examination right now. We could do that later, but let's focus on whether our breath is deep or shallow. Is it fast? Is it slow? Where do you feel that breath in your body? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel light? Do you feel it in one part of your body or several parts, perhaps your whole body? And as you breathe in, try to imagine that cleansing energy of burdock. And it's just moving through your body, in through the nose, down your lungs, all the way around your arms, your legs, your head, your torso, your legs, your toes, all the way back down into Mama Gaia. Just cleansing everything that no longer serves you. And as you exhale, taking all that stuff that burdock swept up and we just release it. Continue to breathe. Breathing in that cleaning energy like a little magical broom. And then we put it into our little magical dustpan and we just breathe it out. Let Gaia transmute that energy. Let the Creator transmute that energy. Continue breathing. And with every breath, you just feel your jaw begin to feel less tense. Perhaps it feels a little slack, feeling the shoulders moving away from the ears, feeling the tenseness that was in our torso just begin to relax, feeling a softness in our belly, feeling the legs that carry us throughout the day just begin to relax. They feel like jello melting into the earth below. Continue to breathe. Burdock says that it works best through song. And with this wordless song, just flow into the melody. Allow burdock to take you on a little journey, showing you the different spaces in our psyche, in our energy, in our physicality that need a little sweeping. Busting out our little besom. Just sweep, sweep, sweep. We're going to clean it all up. We'll understand why it was there in the first place. Perhaps it was needed at one point. We show it gratitude, but then we release it to the wind. Allow it to be turned into something else for someone else, something useful. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh. 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 No. 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 Yeah. Oh. Yahoo, 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 Yahoo. Now you're home. You're home. You're home. You're home. You're home. No. You're home. 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 Go ahead and bring your awareness back into your body. Thanking Burdock for coming into this meditation with us today and helping us to find where we might have some blockages in our life, in our energy, in our body, and helping us to release them with love and gratitude, knowing that as we release them, our Creator will transmute it into something beautiful, into something magical, and into something filled with love. So go ahead and feel into those fingers and toes, possibly giving yourself a little stretch. All right. Well, thank you, Burdock. Burdock was chilling there in my hand. Let's put that back in our little container there. All righty. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, for voting on how to examine a sick person, whether that is ourselves or friends or family members, perhaps young children. Hopefully you all found it helpful. Thank you for allowing me to share Burdock's magic and love and all its goodness with us today. And thank you to everybody who, again, I know that it's a very vulnerable thing to ask your questions through, the super chats and everything here, but I feel it is helpful, and I thank you for that. And I'll thank you for allowing me to tap in for you. So I hope you guys have a magical week. And remember, if you're needing a little help with flow this week, or needing to release some things, Burdock's your guy or gal. I guess it doesn't really have a gender, but it's there to help us out. Let's see. Cass says, wow, I had such a big cry, releasing feelings of low self-worth. Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, whether it's like all kinds of tears, like I feel like they just feel so good afterwards. You're like, huh. And I get really tired. Like after I've had like a good cry, I just pass out. I'm like, I've released so much. So I'm so happy for you, Cass. Lilith said, thank you. Catch you soon. Costalini said, thank you. All right, you guys, I will catch you later. Thank you for letting me hang out with you. Thank you for hanging out with me on this wonderful, beautiful Saturday. Peace, love, and chicken grease, my friends. Peace out. Bye.